Good morning, Sherry. Hi, Trudy. There's
Hello.
Esther. There's Stephen. I have a good crew here today. Elliot, we've got Ben, Erica, Tracy. Good to see you. We've got Lacey. Good. I'm sure we'll have more people coming here real soon. How is everybody this morning? You guys having a good weekend?
Great weather here in Florida.
Good. Good. We don't want any more hurricanes. We're done with those for a while.
I hope so.
Amen. Amen. I won't have a lot of time for this when we start, but I'm just curious. Hi, Roxanne and Rita. What's your biggest hope to get out of this? We'll be starting here in just a minute, but what's your biggest hope? What do you guys hope most to get out of today? I had a beautiful day in San Diego. You know what though, Elliot? Like, how many days is it not beautiful in San Diego, right? I mean, I think you guys are spoiled over there. Of course, that's why everybody lives there, right? It's because it's so beautiful. But I love it. Guys, go to the chat box just really quickly. As you come in here today, what would you say are your biggest things? Okay, so Trudy says boost my confidence and reduce your anxiety. Okay. Trudy, you are in phase 3. You are in phase 3, and so you are in the thick of it. You are hunting deals, you are negotiating deals, and so you're there, which is a fun place to be, but you're in the most anxious spot. Hi, Rena. Astor says,
Hi,
I'm in
Alan.
3. Okay. How are you, Rena?
I'm good. How are you? Just came back from driving for dollars. Looking for deals.
Nice. Good, good. Well, did it go well? You find something?
We're praying about it.
Okay,
So left some yellow letters out there. So
good.
we're
Way
gonna
to get out
see.
there. Way to be taking action. I love that. I love that. That's how
Yeah.
you get deals. You go out there and take action. So I just want to know more about phase 2 and phase 3. Um, okay, Sherry says refresher for me after 2 months of 100% focused on rehab. Okay, same. Refine my skills and abilities. Elliot, or more about phase 2 and 3. Steven says learning, needing help with acquisitions. Been flipping for 6 years. Have the execution going smoothly. Okay, awesome. So that's good to know, Steven. Hi, Nikki. So I was just kind of getting some ideas as to what people were thinking, what they're hoping to accomplish, what they're hoping to take away from today. So as we get started here, let me give you guys a little bit of an idea of what the purpose, right? What our goal is. Hi, Deidre. What our goal is today, what we're
Hi,
really trying
Alan.
to accomplish. What I'm trying to do is just make sure. Hi, Payam. Good to see you here. Okay, Ben says, I'm hoping not to waste my time and money. I want to know the truth. Best way to leverage my assets and develop forward momentum strategy. Okay, I love that. So just so you guys understand, what I'm trying to accomplish here is I'm trying to make sure you guys understand the bigger picture of success. And many of you know and are aware that I've just recently started doing broccoli real estate. So it's my own brand of education. And one of the things that I needed to do is I needed to establish really what the big picture of what I'm trying to accomplish here, because I am absolutely confident that what I share and how we go about it will literally lead you where you want to be successfully. And the reason that is we break it down. We break it down really to the steps that need to be taken. And so please understand that today is my goal to really give you the big picture. It's the big picture, the big overall map of how you get somewhere. So when we're done today, you should know how to get from California to Florida. That's the goal, Donald. You get from California to Florida, right? Or you know how to get from Alaska to Oklahoma. And that's the objective, is to give you the bigger picture. All of the little bits of training, all the little things, John, that it takes to succeed, those are learned by a disciplined training program. Okay. So listen to me on that. Just like running a marathon takes a daily, regular, disciplined learning program, so does success, financial success. It takes that. The problem in the industry today, The problem is there is no disciplined program. It's all sales oriented. It's all sales based. So today, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help you all see what it takes on a higher level to get where you need to be. What that means is we won't be going really super deep into huge amounts of detail, right? That happens in individual webinars where we're talking specifically about purchase and sale agreements, or a specific webinar where we're talking about a deed of trust, or a specific webinar where we're talking about foreclosures specifically. So I want everybody right now to imagine yourselves really like you're on the planet Earth and you're sucked clear out to outer space. You're clear out in outer space and you're looking down on the planet and you're saying, okay, I can now see it all. I can see where Africa is. I can see where Europe is and Asia, and over there's Australia. There's North America and South America. That's what today is. It's a view and it's a map on how you're going to be able to make it, Rose, and to succeed at your business. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now, what that means is for some of you, it might be way too basic, right? So, Stephen, for example, for you, you're in a position where you've been work flipping for 6 years, you got your execution going smoothly, and you're saying, all right, well, how do I acquire? And I think what you're saying is, Ammon, I need the ability to find more deals. Okay. Well, we will solve that problem. I will talk about that today. And if I don't, let me know. However, you may find some of this to be very, very, or maybe too basic. Let me know. At the end of this, there will be a survey. I love that. I'm always trying to gather information, always trying to understand, where I can serve you better to get where you need to go. Because the goal, Lacey, and the goal, Roxanne, literally is to get you into deals. It's to increase your net worth. That's the objective. Now, nothing can be guaranteed, but that's the goal. Are you guys okay if my objective is to get you actually increasing your net worth? Right? Like really, not just entertainment, not just fun meetings, not just flying to other states, but yeah, Chris, if we actually say, all right, how do we really get there? Right? Yeah. Okay. That's the goal. All right. Good. I love it. Okay. Now, as in all my presentations, you guys know I'm very interactive. I love to be. The only thing, because we'll have so many, is we probably don't want to unmute. So if you'd always stay on mute, I might have you open a microphone occasionally, but if you'd stay on mute, but use that chat box. Okay. So if you have a question, ask me in the chat box. Now, if I miss your question, don't hesitate at all, Irene, to ask it again, because if I miss your question, it's on accident. It's not intended to be that way. Because I don't have a Q&A spot for it. So ask the question in the chat box and then have fun. Answer questions. I'll ask you questions, Donald. I'll ask you questions, Kelly. Chat back at me. You can make fun of my haircut. You can roll your eyes at my jokes, all those kinds of things. But the reality is when you walk away today, you're going to have learned a lot. Okay. Are we excited? We're going to have a good time? Okay. I'm jazzed. I really am, because you will have a solid and consistent and powerful map when we're done with this. All right, with that, there is one handout. I know a lot of you got handouts. Was everybody able to print those, or were they a pain in the neck? How'd that go? Were you all able to download them, see them? Was it a pain? You got them. Okay, good, easy. All right, sweet. My only concern today is that I'm going to give you so much information that you're going to walk away exhausted. Okay, I really have a lot to cover today, and so your feedback will be important, because this is the first time I'm really trying to illustrate the whole plan for success. Right? Oh, Donna, yeah, they should have. There should have been an email out to you, and I will get them to everybody who did not get them. And so when we're done, you can email me, and I will send them out to everybody. One thing I do want to tell you before we fire away is I want you guys to make sure that you are super relaxed. If I would have sent one more handout, this is the one I would have sent. This is the notes, right? I want you guys to stay relaxed, because I'm going to be very high level, which means there are going to be a lot of weeds I do not cut or trim or talk about. Okay. And yes, Payam will be here for 4 hours. I will give you a break. You won't have to sit here for 4 hours. But yes, there are a variety of things I need you to understand to get you in position to know where you need to go and how to go there. Okay. Okay, so a lot of you did not receive the notes. Yeah, this handout here I did not send, and I wish I would have sent this. What I will do is when we are done, I'll send you the notes doc. Okay. So Deidre, it's good to have you for as long as you can be here. I'm glad you're here. So all I want to show you is look at how simple my notes are here. I will send you guys this outline. But I don't want you to really, worry about remembering everything. I want you to remember the big tips today, the big elements, right? We'll do a little bit of intro on myself and broccoli, where it comes from. That's pretty simple. The problems, that right there is nice to have because those are the problems we're going to talk about. And then the processes, they're going to be this is where most of our time will be spent is right here. Okay. Right here. We'll spend most of our time there. But and then of course we'll talk about how to actually learn. So you can see I'm not really giving you a wide variety of notes. I want you to be relaxed and to be chill as we do this. But again, I didn't fully get. Oh, I got to share my screen for you guys to see that. Sorry. Those are the notes right there. So let me just scroll through them really quickly. Thank you, Eric and Tracy. So this is really straightforward. If I knew how to transfer them via the presentation, I would, but I don't want to get everybody too caught up in technology. I just want you to show you how simple the outline is. I'll send this outline to you guys when I'm done. All right. Okay. With that little bit of an introduction, let's get the slides up here, and let's do one last little bit of fun before we go. Let's ask everybody where you're from. Everybody just type in where you're from. Let's see where we're all from here today. Lititz, Pennsylvania. I've never heard of that place. Lititz, Florida. We've got Oregon. Let's see what we have. We had Pennsylvania. We got Beaumont, California, Michigan, Colorado, Florence, Alabama, Kansas, Chicago. There we go. Portland, Oregon. All right. My sister lives just north of you, Elliot, or not. Well, you're in San Diego today, I think, but my sister's in Battleground, Washington. So Maple Valley, Washington. We got Houston, Texas. You guys all know that whenever we have somebody from Texas, that I consider myself an international speaker, right? Right? Because Texas is its own country. We can all agree to that, right? So I'm an international speaker today. We've got Florida, Boise, Idaho. Good to see you, Stephen. Stacy also right there in the Boise area. Good to see you, Stacy. Payam from Dallas, Texas. Carlos and Esther from California. Oregon via Mexico. Love it. Mark and Susan. Kelly from Maryland. Nikki from Western North Carolina. Donna Lafayette. Bay Area, California. We've got Hawaii. Janet. Okay, everybody party at Janet's house when we're done. All right. That could be nice. I think we can all meet at Janet's house when we're finished. All right, Lynn, Washington. David from Victorville, California, and Kansas City. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so thank you. Rose is letting me know that I know, and guys, just so you know, Rose is on here with me. And if you are spending any time at all, you know that Rose is doing a lot of things for me. She's incredible. And so it's possible that that email went to your spam folder. Okay, so just maybe check your spam folder as well. Okay, yeah, so check your spam. Thank you, Rose. That's a really, really great point there. So, Payam says Florida also considers itself a country. It's getting there too. It's kind of getting its own attitude, right? For sure. All right. Yeah, Chris says he's booking the flight now. Janet just gave us a smiley face. I think that's a yes, come. I think that's what the smiley face means. Rita says, I forgot to mention Kentucky. That's true. And everybody, please remember that if I do miss you, it's because I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, so the chat box, I miss a lot of things in that chat box. So remember, if there's a question you have that you asked and I didn't get to it, don't hesitate to answer it again or to ask it again. Okay. I'm really excited. The industry I've been in for so long has had so many people come through it and so few successes. It really has. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the goal and the mission is to change that. And today I'm going to give you a very clear picture on what it's going to take to make sure that those of you who have taken the time to be here, those of you that are a part of this, will be able to very clearly and effectively get out there and make it happen. And of course, this is just a map. So there's a lot of traveling you have to do when you're done with this webinar, but the map will be great. Okay. Now, to be very, very clear. Payam, I'm in Arizona. Thank you. Yeah, I'm from Arizona. I'll introduce myself here in just a little bit. You'll know a little bit more about me, but I'm from Arizona and my wife is from Utah. I've spent most of my life out west, have family in Idaho. I've got family in Washington, Oregon, those kinds of things. But Arizona is my stomping grounds. Northeastern Arizona. So east of Flagstaff, kind of a bunch of little towns up here, really beautiful part of the state that a lot of people don't know about really. They really don't. People know Flagstaff, Sedona, and Phoenix, but where I'm at is it's really, really beautiful. So All right, so look at this, guys. 1 to 3 deals every year. What do you guys think about that, right? I am not going to, and I am not trying to get you guys to quit your jobs, Carlos. I'm not trying, Moses, to get you to bail out of your jobs and to turn this into a massive business. I'm literally with this part of broccoli. Maybe down the road, I'll create a company where you scale it up. But all I'm trying to do with broccoli is get you doing 1 to 3 deals every year consistently, where it's not even a thought. Like, I can do 3 deals a year, not a problem. I don't even have to think about it. What do you guys think about that goal? Is it too big or too small or just right? Hi, Terry. What do you guys think? Too big a goal, too small a goal, just right a goal? What do you guys think? Okay, I would love that. Just right, perfect, just right. Okay, Chris, I'm trying to switch to full time. Okay, just right. Yeah, works for a part-time person. Depends on how large the projects are. Thank you, Payam. Okay, Nikki says it's too small. I want to do more, but it's a great start. Nikki, thank you for that comment. Because let me be really, really, really honest with everybody. Okay, if you want to make a full-time living at this, then you've got to do more than 1 to 3 a year. Okay, you've got to do more than 1 to 3 a year. But let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Can you scale something you don't understand? Can you do 10 deals when you haven't even done 1 deal? Thank you. You guys are great. Okay. And so it came by really fast. Somebody said really quickly they want to come out of trucking. David says, I want to retire from trucking in the next 5 years. I love it. Okay. Everybody listen to me. The biggest thing I'm trying to fix with broccoli real estate is I'm trying to slow everybody down so that they succeed. Okay. There's a drawing, right? There's a drawing. I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a ladder and there's 2 next to each other. Okay. This ladder has, I'm a horrible drawer, but you guys will get used to it by the end of today. Okay. And then it shows a guy, right up here on the ladder. And then there's this ladder. Okay. Right here. Where do you think the guy is on the ladder on the right? Where do you think he's positioned in the picture on the ladder on the right? Where do you think he's positioned? Is he up here at the top? He's right here because he can't reach the first rung. That's where he's at. Okay. Yeah. Now here's what's interesting. All of the gurus out there say you should aim for the stars, go big, and they're like, quit your job today, do 20 deals with my system in 3 months, you'll pay it off in a month. You guys, success sometimes happens for some people that way. If you're a savant and you're incredibly talented, sure, you can jump right to the top. But 99% of us are not like that. And so, unfortunately, what most of us are trying to do, we're trying to jump from here to there, and we're trying to do it in one step. It's killing us. And so that's why broccoli, this phase is focused on 1 to 3 a year. We'll talk more about it here in just a second. We'll give more background to that, okay? But I firmly believe that if you can do 1 to 3 deals a year, number one, right, you'll have what you need to scale. But number two, now listen to me carefully here. You'll know if you want to scale. Is it possible that you flip a house and realize that you never want to do that again? Is that possible? What do you guys think? Yeah, it's very true. And so I know a lot of people who have quit their jobs and who are headed straight for, full-time flipping homes. They've never done one. They flip a house like, what have I done? It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. And again, today, oh, thank you, Donna. I'll change colors. I appreciate that. Today, we're going to give you a true picture. I love real estate. I believe in real estate. It's great. I do a lot of real estate. I want you to be excited about it, but I want you to be excited, Tal, for the right reasons. I want you to be excited, Linda, in a way that's going to lead you to success, not a way that's going to lead you to pitfalls. That's what we want to avoid, are the pitfalls, okay? All right, so today is literally a strategic success mapping event. That means we're not getting into the weeds. We're staying where? Where are we staying? Big picture. Okay. So everybody right now on your notes, write big picture, right? Stay big picture. So where's everybody going to stay with me today? Where are you all going to stay? Everybody type it in. Where are you going to stay? Eric and Tracy said it beautifully. Above the weeds. Everybody type it in. Thank you, Deidre. Big picture. Keep typing it. I want to know you guys are hearing me here. Okay. You can keep playing Tetris, but type big picture first. High altitude. I like it, Ben. Big picture. Beautiful. Because we're talking about a success map, right? Steve says in the sky. Yes, we're going to keep it high and we're going to keep it tight. Love it. Okay. We're going to talk about why most real estate investors fail, and then we're going to fix it, right? We're going to fix it. We're going to give you a plan that will really work, that will change the trajectory of your, of your destination, from a lot of effort that ends in giving up, which is where most people end, to lots of effort that leads to a small success and then a bigger success and a greater success and eventually to the financial freedom that you are looking for. Beautiful. All right. So that being said, I want to congratulate you. You are here. You get to hang out where I firmly believe you're going to get the information that you need. If you ever need to get a hold of me, you can go to my website, broccolire.com. You can email me, ammon@broccolire.com. So you can get a hold of me in those ways, but that's my website. You can go take a look at there. Okay. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction. Now, many of you already know me. A lot of you here have dealt with me. Hi, Carol. Good to see you. You've dealt with me a lot. You've heard me on webinars. You've seen me speak. I haven't done a lot of an introduction into myself. I'm going to do a little bit more of that today. I'll introduce myself and I'll introduce a little bit more about broccoli. That's only going to take 10, 15 minutes. We won't spend a lot of time on that. We're going to talk about why real estate. Now, one of my big beefs, you all need to know this and you'll hear this throughout our presentation today. One of my big beefs with our industry, the education industry, is we almost always get everybody drunk on their emotions and then we take them places without bringing their minds into good position, right? Okay, what do I mean by that? What I mean is sales is often their goal is to increase your emotions up to here and get your mind down here. You're easier to sell things to. And if you study sales, you go to sales events, that's what happens. So a lot of you have talked about why are you in real estate, right? In fact, in just a minute, we'll go to it. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that right now. But you spend a lot of time in those emotions, and that's how a lot of you get into programs that are out there. Well, I don't want to totally get rid of all emotion, right? I don't want to get rid of all emotion. I want it there. I want us all to remember why we're in real estate. I want us to recognize our goal has, an end. I don't flip a house just to flip houses, although I actually do enjoy it. It's fun. I flip houses so that I can go see my children. I flip houses so that I can retire. So I want to remember that for a little bit. And I want us to see why we're doing what we're doing, but we're not going to spend a lot of time there. We're going to move into the logic of things. Okay. What do you guys think? Is financial success based more in emotional reaction, or is it based in, analytical logic? What do you guys think? Emotional reaction or analytical logic? Where is financial success mostly found? It's in controlling the emotion. Rena, I like it. You're controlling the emotions so that the logic can win, right? So for example, let's say my teenager comes home and he starts being a little goober, right? Teenagers can do that. Let's say he's annoying me, so I decide I just want to punch him and put him in his room. If I give in to my emotions, am I going to raise a very good teenager? What do you guys think? I'm not at all, right? But if I could take a deep breath and say, you know what? This is a young man. I have two boys at home still. This is a young man who's trying to make it in life. I don't know what happened at school. I don't know if somebody made fun of him. I don't know if he had a hard time in a class. I don't know what's going on, but you know what? He's being very annoying right now. But why don't I just take a minute and listen, right? Notice what's happening. What's winning out in my head? Or is my logic winning out or my annoyed emotions winning out? Which one's going to win? Which one's winning in this discussion I'm having? It's my logic, right? Now, of course, my love for my child and my desire for him to turn out well means I'm trying to treat him with respect as he grows and learns, right? That's what does it. But I have to sometimes control my natural emotion. That's what we're going to talk about today. How you get your head in the game in a way that your head wins. And that's what we're going to be talking about. 5 reasons new investors fail. Or I could just say investors in general fail. Then we're going to talk about a successful routine. And then we've got to talk about how you learn that routine. Okay? As we talk about item 4 and item 5, this is where we're going to spend most of our time. As we talk about this, I'll be correcting some of the things that are keeping you from succeeding, that are keeping you from finding more deals. I'm trying to figure out, who was it that told me you're looking for more deals? Was it Stephen? I think it was you, Stephen, who said that you are, your goal is to try and find more. Yes. Okay. So we'll talk about that too. And I want to know if you're like, that was way too basic and not helpful. Please let me know at the end of the survey. But we'll talk about this. And this is pure accuracy, you guys. What's been fun in the last few months as I've launched Broccoli and we've actually had courses is to see the feedback. And so far, it's working. So far, people are more focused. They're doing the right actions and they're feeling the right progress. And so I have hope that everybody that's working in the right way will lead to deals or get to deals, okay? And then here's a funny thing too. I said this a minute ago, but let me make it more clear, Moses. Part of the goal of good education, like I said, is to help you find out if you don't want to be here. Is it okay if you decide you don't want to flip houses? What do you guys think? Are you destined to poverty if you decide you don't want to be a real estate investor? What do you think? No, you're not destined to poverty. No, not at all. There are a lot of ways to succeed. Real estate's incredible. I love it. It's powerful. It's one of the easier systems to master without, building a large corporation. But I want everybody to know good education not only helps you succeed at something, but good education also helps you find out if it's not for you. And so I want those both to be true. Hi, Tanya. I don't know if I've said hi to you yet. So let's get into these topics. Let's go into a little bit of an introduction, but I promise you it's going to be amazing and you will move forward by the time we're done. Again, this is a big map. Stay big picture. Stay chillaxed, right? You can use that word. You can borrow it from me. Stay chillaxed. All right. And then remember, if you ever get stressed, we're going to Janet's afterwards. She's in Hawaii. So just remember that. If you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed, think Janet, think Hawaii, think chill. Okay. All right, Jason. There we go. So let's get into this a little bit. Let's do a tiny bit of an introduction. I don't generally like to talk about myself because guess what? I don't really matter. What matters, Caro, is your success. And the only reason you're here is because you think there's a chance that what I share with you might get you somewhere. Okay, now that doesn't mean you're using me. It just means that you're giving me your time. You're gracious. And so the only reason I share this with you, so you know a little bit about me, so we can connect at some point, because we're fun. I consider you friends and good people. Even if I argue with you on Facebook about politics, I still love you to death. But I love hiking. I'm an outdoors guy. This right here is after I've hiked the Grand Canyon. Okay, I do it rim to rim. I've done it 4 times rim to rim. Once I did the South Side Loop, which is almost rim to rim. So rim to rim is 24.2 miles in length. You drop an elevation almost, well, I think depending on which side you come from, one side you drop more than a mile, and the other side you climb almost a full mile. Okay, so that's over 5,000 feet in elevation that you hike down, and almost 5,000 feet in elevation you hike up. So it's very exhausting, but I love that hike. So if it's hiking, if it's camping, if it's skiing, if it's rock climbing, I love that kind of stuff. That is at the end of our hike. I'm obviously a little bit older than this guy. He looks like he hadn't even hiked yet. He's like, yeah, what's the big deal? Like, what's your problem, man? And I'm over like, I'm trying to survive. But I love it. I love hiking. I'm an outdoors kind of a guy. I went to Mexico. I lived in Latin America for a few years. 2 years in Chile, 1 year in Mexico. I've been to Peru. I've been to Guatemala. I've been to Belize. It's amazing. I've got a son in Bolivia right now. So I speak Spanish. I speak it fluently. I love the Hispanic people. They're just such incredible, incredible people. I love them to death. My favorite author is Thomas Sowell. I love the guy. Just an incredible dude. He succeeded through the civil rights era, was born in the ghettos, was a Marxist, and then has spent his whole life truly educating in really amazing ways. He's an economist. My number one all-time favorite author of any genre anywhere. I love Thomas Sowell. He's great. And then the biggest picture and the most important one is my family. I love them. They're beautiful. You'd think 5 kids is a big family, but I come from a family of 7 kids. And my wife comes from a family of 8 kids. So compared to where we came from, this is a tiny little family right here, right? And Gideon is not there. So I don't know how I got my picture without Gideon. So, oh, wait a minute. Maybe, no, I don't think he's over there. So he's my middle child. So if any of you tell my son Gideon, if you see him and say your dad had a presentation when you weren't in it, I will disown you. Okay. I will totally and completely disown you, just so that you know. Because I was like, yeah, you guys definitely treat me like a middle child. So I have to laugh. This was kind of the reason I chose this one is it's kind of me and my family kind of out doing some hike somewhere by a river, and some of my kids love it and some wish I wouldn't do that to them. But you guys, I love my family. I think families are one of the best things in the world. I know there's a lot of political debate, but I really do firmly think that relationships are the things that bring the most happiness. I think relationships are the things that make the most difference in a healthy society. And so my family is by far my most important accomplishment. And hopefully I'm doing a good job by them. All right. But again, that's just a little bit about me in terms of my family, my life. I love it. And I hope we have a lot of things in common should we ever meet and get a chance to talk. As for my business, I was in my early 20s, and Trudy says I look exhausted there. Trudy, I think I've just gotten old, and so I think I always look exhausted, right? I think maybe that's what it is. But when I was in my early 20s, you guys, I married that beautiful bride of mine, 25 years. This year we'll be married 25 years. And I was framing for a living. I was not doing very well. I dropped out of college, just so you know. I did not, for whatever reason, I'm a very bright guy, but college was very difficult. Don't need to share a lot about why. So I dropped out and I framed. And so I was barely making it as a framer. That $12 an hour back in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, was barely paying bills, struggling. I lived with the immigrants. So it's a good thing I spoke Spanish at the time because I was living with the immigrants. That's where we lived to make it happen. And I ran across the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. How many of you have read that book? Anybody read it? Probably all of us have. Andrea, probably many of us have, right? David, Carlos, Stacy's reading it now. Okay. Love it. Now, I don't like all of the books that he's written. I don't think all of them are that great, but Donald, I really liked Rich Dad Poor Dad because it was a very simple story that tells us that wealth is created by owning businesses and owning assets. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thought. And I decided then in my early 20s, I said, well, if I've got to work for 40 or 50 or 60 years, however long I'm going to be working, I would rather be working in an area that has a lot of potential. And so I started into real estate investing. Okay. Yeah. Kara says, I read the book. It's very eye opening. That's what started me down this journey of becoming a business owner. And so it wasn't too long after I read this book, me and the owners of my framing crew, we went to a seminar and we bought a seminar like many have in this industry. And I think I spent $18,000. Now think about this, guys. I'm living in poverty level housing. I'm not really paying my bills, and I borrow $25,000 to go take an education course. Okay, what do you guys think? Is this smart at my age, in my early 20s? Hey, a lot of you are saying yes. And I partly agree with you, okay? I partly agree with you, okay? Because you can see, I just put in here, this is a horrible map. My wife says, you can't see that map. This is my first flip that I did right here, okay? I don't have a picture of it because it was so long ago I didn't store any pictures. And this is the first rental I ever owned, okay? Now, the reality is, and the reason I created broccoli is because most people fail in this industry. And we're going to talk about those numbers in a minute. So if I had known the failure rates, I would have said I was an idiot for getting into the industry. Now, I'm a very tenacious dude. I'm a pain in the butt. I'm very dedicated to what I do. And so through sheer dedication, the seminar I went to, they had one boot camp. They had like a book with a VHS. Does anybody remember VHS tapes? Moses, you remember the VHS that you put into a VCR? They had like a VHS tape. They had one book. I went to one boot camp. I learned that the guy who taught that boot camp, he rented some super sweet sports car because he couldn't afford to own it, and he taught the class. Okay. After that, they were supposedly had coaches, but when I called, they weren't people who'd flipped houses. They were kind of guys in their 20s reading out of a book. Okay. Guess what? A lot of education out there isn't much better, okay? Some have improved in recent years, but that's what it was. So if you really think about it, I was crazy. I borrowed that money from family, okay? I borrowed it from family. And here's my quick story on how it happened. I got out there, I worked my guts out for 6 months. Remember, I think I'd quit my job as a framer now, and I'm working in a sales floor, okay? I'm in a sales floor and I'm selling real estate stock coaching programs. That's what I'm doing. All right. And so as I'm doing this, I'm trying to do my real estate. I worked my can off that for 6 months. Guess how many deals I did in 6 months? Who can guess? Yeah, I did zero, Leslie. I did zero deals. Okay. Wasn't even remotely close to deals. Okay. So now I'm sitting, I forget where I was at, but I remember this very distinctly. Okay. And I'm somebody, I believe in God. I do believe that there is a higher power. I believe he guides us and loves us. That's a belief system I come from and have accepted. So I'm sitting there 6 months in thinking, what am I going to do? Like, I cannot feed my family. Like, I cannot pay my bills. I cannot pay my family back. I was absolutely just depressed and not sure what to do with myself. Okay. So this thought comes to my mind, and it was, how much have you learned in the last 6 months? Now, you have to understand, I'm intense. I've been talking to agents. I've been going to title companies. I've been looking at properties. I wasn't a guy who sat home on my can. I was out there working my guts out. Nothing made sense. I didn't quite understand how to put the pieces together. So I'm sitting here 6 months in, and this thought comes, well, how much have you learned? And I remember thinking, well, I've learned a lot. I really have. I know so much more about escrow processes and contracts. I can run comparables. Like, I've really learned a ton. And so the next thought comes into my head, and I'm obviously saying I think God was caring for me. This thought comes in and says, well, what if you kept going for another 6 months? And I remember thinking, well, I'd probably do a deal. I'd probably get there. Like if I learned what in the next 6 months, what I learned in the last, I'd probably succeed. And so the next thought was, well, why not keep going? Okay. Actually, the actual thought was, why not be patient? That was the actual word that came to my mind. Why not be patient? Okay. So I did. I said, okay, fine. All right. I'm going to keep working hard at my sales job. We're going to keep just squeaking by, barely eating. We're going to keep doing that. And I'm going to just put in my 10 to 15 hours a week on real estate, and I'm just going to keep going. It was almost exactly 6 months later when this project popped up right here. My buddy from high school called me. Let me change my colors here because somebody already told me my colors stink. Okay. My buddy from high school called me, says, Ammon, there's a property for sale in this neighborhood and it's listed for sale for 60 grand. And it says it's a mobile home, but in fact, it's a stick built house. Does everybody understand the difference between mobile home and stick built house? Everybody understand the difference? Okay, so a stick built is where you put a foundation, and then on top of the foundation, contractors come out and then they build a floor and they build a wall and they build a roof and then they put windows in. So they build it on site. The stick refers to 2x4s, right? If you get a 2x4, it's long like that. They call it sticks. So as a framer, that's what I did. As I literally, yep, Donna, I'd pick up all the sticks and we built the house. It's called stick built. Manufactured home is where there's a big warehouse and they build the mobile home on wheels, right? And then they roll that mobile home out to the spot and they put it on there. So manufactured means manufactured in a warehouse and rolled out there. Stick built means built on site. Which do you think is generally better built and worth more? The one that's built on site or the one that's rolled out there? Which one is generally more valuable? The stick built, the on site is more valuable. So you can see when my friend says it's labeled as a mobile home, but it is in fact a stick built house. Do you see how I had a potential for a profit here? It was priced like a mobile home, but it was actually stick built. Is everybody understanding what's going on here? Guys catching it? Okay, now here's what had gone on. So I checked it out, and I'd been doing real estate for a year now, so I had some skills. I built some skills and abilities. So I called the agent up, which is a powerful skill. I called the agent, which a lot of new investors don't. You're waiting for somebody to call you. So I called the agent and I said, hey, this says it's a manufactured home, but the picture, there was this picture of it. I said, the home looks like a stick built. And the agent says, well, it's a manufactured home. I said, but it looks like a stick built. And he said, yes, but it's a manufactured home. Like they kind of got mad at me. I was like, okay, all right. So I called a contractor to go out and look at the property. So in other words, I didn't believe the agent. I was like, I'm sorry, you're just not explaining that property. We got to figure that out, right, Trudy? So what I do, Mark, is I send this contractor out, and here's what he finds. Okay, if you were in a helicopter looking at the concrete pad the house is built on, you would see that the house was indeed stick built. That's true, but if you look at the concrete, it was divided into thirds like this, and that's. I'm not drinking. Oh, I'm drinking water. I'm not drunk. I swear. I can't draw straight lines for the life of me with this mouse. But in any case, this right here, this here is concrete, okay? But guess what? This right here is actually a mobile home trailer bed. Like literally, here's the ground. What they did is they dug out a trench and then they backed in the mobile home bed. So the mobile home bed, was, here's the frame of the mobile home bed. And then, here's some 2x4s, 4x4s. And then on top of that, they had the plywood. And then right next to the plywood was concrete. Okay. So does everybody see what's going on? Is this making sense as I draw my drawings? And then they built the house on top of it. They built the walls here, and then they built the house on top like a stick built. Is this making sense? Okay. Yeah, I know. Mark says I've never seen that. Mark, I've never seen it before, and I've never seen it since. And I've been doing real estate now almost 25 years. I've never seen it again. Yeah, Tanya's like, that's weird. Now, it wasn't that big a deal because if you know how buildings work, most of the weight was on this part right here and this part right here. Those were the edges of the house. So literally almost zero weight was sitting right here. There was almost no weight right there. So all the weight was being carried by the concrete foundations. In any case, I called the county because I had skills. I knew what I was doing now. I said, hey, county, can I sell that as a single family home? And they said, sure, you can do that, right? No big deal. We don't care as long as none of the floor is supported by any of the trailer elements, okay? So I figured out, hey, if we went under there and put 4x4 beams down to concrete blocks, 2 foot on center, all the way down that trench, because you could get into it, we can sell this as a single family home. What do you guys think? Is that a viable plan or am I crazy? Well, I called an investor because you remember, I'm like 22 or 23. Do I have any money? I mean, literally, do I have any cash? No, I am in the hole a lot of money, right? I borrowed 25 grand from my family. Okay, I have no money. So I call this investor and I show him the deal. He's like, dude, he didn't say that. He was far more sophisticated than I am. He was about my age. He was my age then that I am now. Far more mature than I am now. And he says, I said, so hey, what do you think? He says, that's a great deal, right? And he said, if you don't do it, I will. So I just said, I said, well, why don't we do it together? I brought the deal. Why don't you provide the money? Let's get it done together and we'll split it. Now, the reason he did that was because he saw a young man who was working hard to succeed, and he said, you know what, I'll help this kid out. He says, I'll split it with you, sure, because he put up the money, he did all the work, I found the lead, I probably got more than I deserved, but he split it. We made 60 grand on that first deal. I got 30, he got 30. Okay, now that did not put me ahead. That barely got me from being way behind. Okay, so that paid off all my bills, and I was still barely living and surviving, but all my bills were paid and I was in good position and I was ready to rock on and go forward. Does that make sense? Okay. Donna's like, a good plan, but you're still crazy. Yes. That was my first deal. 1 year. It was hard. It was difficult, but I got there and I did it. Now, shortly after doing this deal, my wife and I had my sales job. I lost my sales job. We won't go into that. I had $6,000 in my bank and I didn't have a job now, but I at least didn't have any debt. Okay. Well, that's not true. I think I had 6,000 debt remaining. And I think it was on, I forget what it was. I think it might have been student loans or something like that. So I had this property under contract. My wife and I lived in this side for 2 years. So we had a choice. We could either pay off that debt. I forget what it was, or we could put the 6 grand down and move into this without me having a job. What would you have done in my position? What would you have done? Yeah, it was a tough decision. We were taught to stay out of debt. That's how we grew up, right? Stay out of debt. Don't get into debt. Get out of debt, right? And so we had this potential to pay off all our debt. And I just said to my wife, I said, honey, look, we got to pay rent no matter what, right? We got to pay rent. I think it was like 600 bucks a month at the time, right? Way low, compared to today. In fact, when I sold this building, I was getting 1,200 a month out of it, double. So anyway, I said, honey, look, we got to pay 600 a month of rent anyway. So if we pay off our debt and then go rent somewhere, we got to pay 600 a month. But if we move into this, because of the other side of rent, we can save 300 a month. Our rent will only be 300. We can use the extra to pay off the debt. Plus now we have an asset. So she decided to do it with me. And guys, we moved into that thing. I lived in that side. I'd never fixed up a house in my life. Me and my wife worked on it while we lived in it. And that was my very first duplex. You will see what I bought. I 1031 exchanged out of this a couple years ago. I put 6,000 down. Guess what I got out of it when I sold it? I put 6K down, didn't put any more into it. Well, there's more to the story, but I put 6,000 down. I sold it 18 years later. What did I make? I got 340 net out of it. Okay. 6,000 to 340. Was that a good investment? Yes, it was. Okay. In any case, I hope I'm not taking too long on this, right? Yeah, it was 18 years later, and we're going to talk about cash flow here in a bit. But that's how I got started. And ever since those first years, which were really tough, I've been fixing, flipping, wholesaling, developing, splitting, all that kind of stuff in the residential market. Now, it was just 5 years after I got into flipping that I got into coaching, and I love teaching and I love coaching. I love it. It's a lot of fun. I have a blast. I'm having a great time right now. Like, I'm really enjoying my Saturday, literally. I enjoyed putting this presentation together. But that's how I got started. It wasn't easy and it wasn't simple, okay? Since then, in addition to doing hundreds of deals, I have coached thousands of people. I've created curriculum for Fortune 500 companies. I have trained speakers. I have trained coaches. I believe where I spoke in Vegas was the largest investor symposiums ever put together. So I was speaking in rooms of 600 to 800 people. Robert Kiyosaki spoke at those venues. I was invited. I spoke there, and I've spent 20 years educating, which is just a few years left, less than what I've spent actually doing real estate. And so I love both. I love both doing real estate and teaching it. Okay. Now, I've normally taught in other companies. I've normally been a coach hired in other organizations. And I would be honest with you that I was happy there. I really had no desire to leave. But I have, and I'll give you a little bit more history on that. Now we're starting Broccoli Real Estate. That's where I'm at now. Just in the last couple months, we've started it. You'll get a little bit of a name on Broccoli. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the reality is, it was time for me to grow as a person. I had been in that same position doing those same things for a long time. And I wanted to grow at a different level. And to grow required me to literally do my own thing, to teach in my own way, because the industry literally just needed it. Okay. The industry needed to change. Here's why. So we're shifting a little bit. Okay. The industry has several problems, and they're the reason most of you struggle to succeed. They're the reason most new investors don't get 1 to 3 deals a year. It's because the industry itself creates its own problems. The industry is designed by salespeople who are not educators. Okay. That is a problem, my friends. Why would it be a problem when a salesperson designs an educational program? Can you guys give me any reasons you could see that as problematic? You give me any reasons you see that as problematic? Why would that create an issue? Yeah, Tao says they're pushing profits, and companies need to be profitable. I have no problem with profitability, but when you push profits, right, when your clients aren't succeeding, that's a problem. Yeah, Tao says it's hard to learn from those who teach but don't do. Love it. Yep. They don't know the actuals. Yep. Profits over people. Correct. Usually selling something they're not doing. Absolutely. Okay. And so what would happen is they would realize, hey, wait a minute. We have these students and we can create this need and get more out of them. Now, it may not really help them succeed, but we can get a lot of their cash. Now, unfortunately, profits have a way of doing that to people. And so when you have salespeople in charge of creating the products, like, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's not create that product because it won't help us sell this one. For example, I was in one company, they would not let me teach about cash flow. I couldn't teach about rentals and how to properly calculate rentals, which you're going to learn today. Guess why they wouldn't teach me about rentals? Because they had an entire department that would take their students and sell them rentals out of their retirement accounts. They'd say, hey, look, you've got a couple $100,000 in your retirement account. Why don't we go ahead and put those into rentals? And so they didn't want people being educated and being able to walk on their own. They needed them to feel like they needed a coach to get them through the rentals, and then they sell them already pre-made inventory. Now, was that inventory horrible inventory, guys? Not necessarily. I'm not trying to say that these guys are mafia members. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. So I want to be careful there. I'm not trying to say that these guys are just full of horribly evil men. But at the same time, is it really, really best for the students to try and make sure it's the salesman that's educating them on what to buy and not the educator? No, because the salesman's going to guide them towards the commission. That's a problem. That's an issue, which means the teaching was for sales, not for the student. Let me ask you guys something. How many of you think it's okay to use your own money when you do real estate? Should you use your own money? Yes or no? What do you guys think? Okay. Okay. Esther says yes. Mark says try not to. He says sure, it depends. Ella says yes. Okay. Have any of you ever heard? Have any of you ever gone to a sales situation where they've told you don't use your own money, use other people's money? You ever heard that? You ever heard don't use your own money, use other people's money? Okay, think about that for a second. Now, let me tell you the real, if you're a teacher, here's how you teach it. If you're a teacher, you say absolutely yes, use your own money. No question. Use it, use it, use it. Because, all right, so I've been doing real estate for a long time. I have money I don't need to spend. Okay, I have more money than I need to live on now. My life is different than it used to be. So let's say I've got $1 million, hypothetically, and it's sitting in a bank account. Let's say it's doing nothing in that bank account. Would it be smart for me to go borrow $1 million at 12% while my money is doing nothing? What do you guys think? Is that smart? Is that smart? No, that's stupid. That's the dumbest thing on the planet. My money needs to be engaged. And so, yes, 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 you should use your own money. Now, at the same time I'm using my own money, should I leverage other people's money? Right? So, for example, I could do one deal at $1 million, or I could do 4 deals where I put 250,000 down on each deal and borrow the rest. What would be better, doing one deal with my million or doing 4 with down payments? Which would make me wealthier faster? Doing the 4. But you see the difference? What I'm teaching you is definitely use your own money, just leverage with it. Okay? The others say don't use your own money. Do you see the difference between the 2 bits of advice? Okay? Do you see the difference? Okay? Now, there's 2 reasons they do that when they're teaching. I promise you, I've been around these sales floors. Okay? There's 2 reasons. Number 1, they want you to feel like your risk is lower, right? So they want you to feel that your risk is lower. And number 2, okay, they want you feeling like you're smart for charging up your credit cards. Okay? They want you to feel these things. They don't want you thinking logically. They want you feeling, right? Now, here's what they say. They say, don't use your money, use somebody else's. That way you don't lose your money. Let's stop for a second. Let's think. Most of you on here are very good people. I'd say all of you are good people, right, Lori? Like if you borrowed money from me, you would try to get it back to me, wouldn't you? Right? Yeah, Stacy says, I want to pay the interest to myself. Stacy, that's a great way to put it. I love it. Yeah. So when they told me, Ammon, you should borrow from other people so you don't lose your own money, I was like, whoa, whoa. So you're saying it's okay to lose somebody else's cash? Like if I borrowed from Nikki and I didn't make my money back, I don't have to pay her back? Well, that's the most ridiculous, silly idea I've ever heard. Now, sometimes you're not able to pay them back, right, Moses? But guys, I'll be honest with you. If I borrowed your money, Sue, and I didn't pay you back, I would feel like I just failed in life. Okay. I owe Terry the respect of giving the money back to her. So that was just ridiculous. But they wanted me to feel like, oh, that's right. I'm such a smart business person. And people aren't being evil when they don't think of that. They're like, oh, that's right. That's good business. Well, until you get out there, so when you start doing it, you're like, wait, these are people I care about. These are businesses I want to protect my word. Now, the other part is a credit card. They're about to charge you some of these programs anywhere from $10,000 up to $100,000, depending on what you're buying. And so they want you to feel like, oh, I'm really a smart person as you hand over that credit card. In other words, were they teaching you about leverage to help you, or were they teaching you about leverage to prep you for a sale? What were they doing? Okay. Now, I believe in sales. I think sales are fine. I think sales are good. I don't mind sales. I buy things and I love good salespeople. I sell things. I sell education. But if you're going to twist the lesson a little bit so that you can make the sale, that is wrong. Okay. And see, they twisted it just a little bit. So I literally run into people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're not using it. And I'm like, why are you not using your money? Well, I was told not to. Guys, use your money. So that's what happens. And the idea is in this industry is to get the emotions high, get the logic low. Because when are you more likely to make a sale or to buy something? When your emotions are higher, when they're low? How are most sales designed? When they're high. I literally was in a sales training in one of these companies. And of course, I've never been in the sales department. So I've always been teaching people, but they would let us into the sales training occasionally. And one of the sales trainers said, you never want to talk about how much work it takes to succeed. Never say how hard it is to succeed. Carlos, why do you think they didn't want me to talk about that? Why do you think they didn't want me to talk about the cost of success? Why did they not want that, Chris? Why do they not want that talked about? Yeah, because you're like, wait a minute. Your logic would have to step in and say, wait a minute. Is this, you'd have to start weighing the things. They don't want you weighing, they want you accepting. If I don't buy this program, I'll fail. If I don't buy this program, I can't have my dreams. This is the key to my dreams. Guys, that's wrong, right? When you're buying an investment, you should be using a lot of logic. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? Okay. So again, they wanted to give you this great experience, but they didn't really push disciplined application. I'll give you another example. I was sitting in a meeting with somebody and I was trying to design some curriculum. Okay, let me ask you something. If you're trying to learn a skill, is it better to start with the base and build on it, or should you just learn whatever you want to learn in whatever order you want to learn it? What do you think? Is a proper order good, or is just whatever? Proper order is good. Well, I sat there, and this was an owner of the company, and I said, we really need to teach this first. He says, no, we went to a training, and they said people like to have access to everything at the very beginning. So we're going to make it 15 minutes because people like short chunks, and people like to get what they want when they want it. Well, what do you think happened to success rates? Were they improved by giving people what they wanted? By giving people what they wanted, that actually helped them get where they needed to go? It did not help, I promise you. Okay. So instead of telling people, look, you paid me to make you successful, so you got to do what it takes to be successful, instead of putting discipline on the students, they said, no. If we back it off and make them feel excited and get their emotions up, we'll make more sales. In other words, a lot of the industry has a lot of empty calories. There's a lot of great information, but there are way, way too many empty calories. And so that's why broccoli was created, to stop this kind of garbage, right? 30% of people, there was one company I was at that tracked this for a month, right? 30% of people never open their first videos. This is after spending 30 to 80 grand. Only 20% will complete all of their videos. Less than 10% use all of their coaching calls. Fewer than 2% get wealthy. Fewer than 5% make solid returns on their education. Fewer than 15 will complete a deal on their own. Many who complete a deal lose money. Okay. Now, these numbers I have to extrapolate a little because these weren't fully put out there. But having been in the industry as long as I am, those are really fairly realistic statistics. What do you guys think? Is that okay? If you're an education company, is that something that's absolutely helping you? No, right? And guess what they say when you ask them? Like Stacy says, I will not fall into those categories. I know you guys are dedicated people. When you call them up and say, what's your success rate? Guess what they'd say? Well, it depends on you. Okay, that is true. Does success depend on us? Of course it does depend on us for sure. However, if you're an educational company, can you blame your students' failure? If those are the numbers, are you really telling me that that many people are just lazy? That many people don't do the work? Guys, that's insane. The reality is if you have this problem, it's because your salesmen are creating the education and you're caving into what they want instead of creating the education and the discipline to make sure people succeed. That is the company's problem. Okay. All right. Now I'd be okay if people are paying 2 or 3 grand just to have the experience and to get exposed to it, because that would be worthwhile. But when you're spending 15 to 100,000 with the product and all the upsales, guys, that is debilitating. That is horrific. It's debilitating to those who fail. That's crazy. Okay. Now I never sold this. I just fulfilled. And so again, but after so many decades, I was like, look, I'm really sick of the industry and I want to create something else. And so the solutions we've created here at Broccoli is you should be persuaded by logic. You should not be inflamed by emotion. Okay. You should be persuaded by logic. So what I'm going to share with you here in the next in the next hours is going to be logical. I'm going to be getting your brain going. I'm not going to be getting your emotions going very high, a little bit, but I don't want your emotions high. I want your brain high. Does that make sense? The other thing is education should strive to pay for itself. If you pay for education with Broccoli, our goal, now we can't guarantee anything, that's impossible because you are a part of the equation, but because we're honest about you being a part of the equation, we firmly believe that education should pay for itself. When you get done with something, you should walk away and say, that's going to pay me, right? The courses should be designed for success. And guess what? Your success should make you a repeat customer. Okay. Just so you know, in most of the industry, here's what happens. They know full well if they can get you really high on your dream, the minute you give the credit card, psychologically, you trust them. Does that make sense? You say, I trust you. Now, it's not because you're gullible or stupid. It's not that. It's just they've done a great job. These are high-powered salespeople. They've studied psychology. And so what happens is they know that you trust them. So for the next, 4 to 8 weeks, guess what they do with that trust? They upsell you, right? They upsell you. They know you trust them. At that moment, they can now sell you all kinds of different things. And so what they do is they sell you everything up front, and then of course they fulfill on the back end, and just enough to keep you from canceling. But the idea is why they have that trust, they upsell you, and then of course if you're not succeeding, the trust goes down and you stop buying. Well, guys, that is the wrong kind of design for a properly structured company. What if I taught you so well in one class, you said, Ammon, that's so good, I would pay for another. What do you guys think about that model? That was so effective and so useful that I know I'll get the value out of it. Let's go to the next one. That's the way it should be set. Here's an interesting stat out there. This is industry wide. Let's say that somebody spends $10,000 on an educational program. Okay. Guess how much of that marketing money goes to the marketing department, right? So you have the marketing team, then you have the fulfillment team. Guess how much of that goes to the marketing team? 75%. 75%. Guess how much goes to fulfillment? 25%. Okay. So $7,500 goes to the salesman and the marketing company that were selling you the product. $2,500 goes to the company that's going to coach you and train you and create content. That's how it's set up. Okay. That's how it flows out. Right. And of course, and that's why they sell it. They upsell as much as they can, and then you'll probably never do business with that company again, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. You're done. Okay. So another thing that we do to make sure we don't get into that, right? So we design our courses for success so that, and by the way, one of the things we've done that is in Broccoli, if you don't succeed at one level, you can't buy the next level, right? Like literally, somebody said to me, in fact, it was my wife, she said, you should give them a discount for buying, all 3 packages together. And I said, that doesn't work because what if they fail at the first package? Like they can't go to the second unless they fulfill the first. So that's the way it's supposed to happen. Now, when you guys leave here today, you do not have to do any education with broccoli. You don't have to do that. Okay, I'm going to give you enough of a plan. You can go do it without me, just so you know. Okay, I'm not trying to trap you into anything here, but it's designed so that if you fail at the first level, you're like, okay, real estate really wasn't for me. I don't have either the time or the interest or the energy to do it. I need to go to a different time. So you're out at a lower level. It's designed that way, right? So you must be competent to progress. And so that's why I named it broccoli, guys, is this is education-based learning, and you're going to see that as we go forward. Broccoli is no hype. It's no fluff. It's all nutrients. It's all good. It's a superfood. That's why it's broccoli real estate investing, because we're going to solve the problems that are keeping you from success. Okay. Now that introduction took way longer than I'd hoped it would take. So I apologize for that. And just so you know, like I said, I challenged myself to do this presentation so I could get these things, boiled down and a little bit closer. But I want you to know that as we go through today's presentation, you're going to know exactly why so many fail. You're going to know the exact map for success, and then you're going to learn the process for learning that, right? That map. It's going to be very, very clear. Okay. Anyway, thank you for being with me through that introduction and listening to it. What are you guys' thoughts? Do you guys agree with my experience with the industry, or do you think I'm crazy? What do you think, Moses? What do you think, David? Am I crazy about the industry, or is it fairly accurate? Okay, refreshing. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, a lot of people agree. Yeah, and it's a bummer because there is a lot of good information, right? Yeah, Chris, like I almost bought one of those packages. Yeah. Well, you know what, guys, I wouldn't have succeeded without it. So a part of me is grateful for these companies, right? Because I got into it because of that. But still, I'll be really honest with you, just the amount of failure that is caused out there is insane. Okay. Yeah. So and guys, people buy into it because they're very powerful salespeople. In any case, we're going to get you wherever you need to go by giving you the right information. Let's take one quick moment. We won't spend a lot of time here, but let's remind ourselves, though, even though there's a lot of dishonesty in the industry and things like that, let's talk about why we're in it. Okay. Thank you, Lynn. I sure appreciate that. I sure hope so. Lynn is working with me on some of the phases, and that's my goal, right? Janet, Rose, could you throw the Zoom link in there? I know even though we have more people who have registered, that since we don't have the full room, I think she can still get in there. So let me see if I can find it real quick. I think Rose is still here. So Rose will get that link to you here in just a second, Janet. So she'll get it in there. And then you can copy and get it to your friends. So why real estate? So let's go to emotion for just a second. This is not going to be the manipulative emotion. This is going to be, and if for some reason it's not there in a minute, Janet, let me know, and I'll get that for you. But I think Rose will have it there real quick. Let's go. Why real estate? We're going to emotion. Okay. What's the dream? See, Rose is awesome, guys. 2 clap for Rose. She's great. We love her to death. Okay, so what is the dream? Why are you guys trying to learn about real estate? You guys tell me.
Break away from 9 to 5.
Yeah, get away from your 9 to 5. Thank you. Yeah, freedom. That's a big part of it. Good. Somebody said family. Good. What else? Have other options. Okay, jobs are disappearing. Grow my wealth and assets. Okay, legacy. Yeah. So there we go. Let's just see what I put in here. Freedom, like personal growth. I want to grow financially, personally. Leslie says legacy. Retirement. I want to stop working at some point. I want to retire. I want legacy. I'm passionate. I'm passionate about something exciting and fun. Chris says experience life with my family, not just watch them go through life. A family business. How about safety? A lot of times we don't talk about that. The world is shifting so much. Imagine if we have assets. So if our job disappears or we get sick, that there's safety there, right? If you've ever supported a family, you know what that's like. Retirement, legacy, love it. I want my time back. I want opportunity. Okay. Those are all the reasons. The reality, Nikki says uncapped potential, meaning I feel like I can do more and be more. That's why we do this. That's why we go to town. That's why we step out as entrepreneurs, is because there's a payout at the end. That's the goal, right? Yeah. And so like Lynn says, sometimes you're just wearing out with what you're doing, right? You got to do something. Ben says answering my calling. Yeah. Sometimes the Lord calls us to other things. These are real reasons, right? Chris, when I'm old, need to go into a home. My kids don't need to worry about dad. I know, Chris. I think even if you've got the money to pay for home, I think you should just go to your kids' home because they just deserve it. You know what I mean? I tell my kids, I'm like, you're lucky to have me. And even if I'm senile, I'm funny. So you better take me. So that's what I tell them. I don't think it's, but anyway. But yes, you're right. To take care of our family, all of that. Okay. So again, I don't want to spend a lot of time there because we're already dedicated to that. That's what our objective is, Jana. We're going there. Okay. So what's the vehicle? How are we supposed to get there? Well, we're going to get there. We're going to have probates and pre-foreclosures. We're going to build new homes. We're going to do manufactured homes. We're going to do commercial projects subject to raw land. We're going to have rentals that are Airbnbs and residential rentals and long care, residential care facilities. We're going to lend. We've got tax liens. I mean, look at all these vehicles. They're so awesome, right? Okay. Here are some of the recent ones I've done. I only put a few up, but this one here is a mobile home I flipped. I looked at my account books, 117,000 profit on this project back here. I split a piece of land. Prior to that, made 50 grand just buying a piece of land and splitting it. I do a lot of mobile home developments. We make 80 to 120 on my mobile home developments. This project right here is one that's currently being worked on. In fact, there's a lot that already looks way different. So it's under construction just a block or two away from me. This house back here, I have almost under contract. It's another manufactured home. We'll make 80,000 on it. So these are fix and flip homes, which are legitimate, which are solid, and all of you have seen them done. This is a wholesale deal where I'm able to I don't have to do any repair. I just get it under contract and sell it. Now, the way I wholesale is a little bit different, but it's still, I'm buying something at a lower price, turning around and able to sell it for more just by getting the project to somebody else. This is a piece of land I'm currently doing on a wholesale. These are the units I bought with that duplex. Remember that duplex I lived in? Okay. This is what I bought with them. I took one duplex and I kicked it into 3 duplexes. Okay. Yeah, I will show you passive. Somebody just asked, Chris, is there such thing as passive or has it been defined incorrectly? It has been defined incorrectly, Chris. I'm going to show that to you here in just a second, right? Really quickly, that first duplex was bringing in $2,400 a month when I sold it. Guess how much these are bringing in per month? Guess how much these are bringing in per month? I have 3 duplexes now. I 1031 exchange them into another location. Hold on real quick. Yeah, they're almost they're about 1,400 times 6, $8,400 a month. Okay, every month. What do you guys think? Yeah, I'm trying to find the mute button, guys. Here.
Наверное, куплю я тебе подарок.
All right, so there we go. I found my mute button. Okay. So there you go, guys. Literally, right? Remember that $6,000 I invested all those years ago? Well, several years ago, I sold that and I kicked it into this. Guess what? These buildings are getting close to probably $1 million in total value. Okay. Well, I owe much, much less than that million. Okay. So these are the vehicles. Does it work, you guys? Can you make it in real estate? You can. There's real money to be made here. Okay. There really, really is. Okay. So that leads us to 2 questions. Okay. How do successful investors succeed? What's their process? And how do I learn that process? Again, I appreciate you being here with me. I'm gonna have to get through those slides, much faster in the future. But I love sharing all that with you guys. It's fun. And what you're about to get is literally 20 years of condensed information, condensed kind of engagement. I'm gonna call it wisdom. I don't like saying I'm wise, even though I've got my wisdom highlights, my white beard to prove it. But I promise you, what I'm going to share is really, really effective. Okay. First of all, let's start with the 5 reasons that people fail, that new investors fail. Let me give you these. And then as we go through the success elements of how you're going to overcome the failure and succeed, right? As we do that, we'll talk about how we overcome these problems through that presentation. Okay. And Chris says, at least you still have your hair. Chris, there's a reason I'm not turning around. Okay. There's a reason I'm not turning around. No, it's true. I was at I have to tell you, I was at church with my brother the other day, and he was leading a group, and so I traveled and I was hanging out with him, and so somebody in his meeting, I said, yeah, he's my brother. He says, oh yeah, so he's your older brother. And I just smiled, said, I said, no, I'm actually the older brother. And another guy sitting right next to me says, yeah, they look at his bald head and then saw your hairline, so that's why they assumed you're the younger brother. I said, I know, I'm smarter too. Anyway, it was kind of funny, so I got to razz my brother about that whole thing. So. But yes, I have more hair than my brother. Both my brothers do, which is good. Okay, here we go. The reason investors fail. One, the process is wrong. Okay, and the process is wrong because they're trying to sell you stuff, and so they can't quite sell you the right process. For example, do you need a really, really big, heavy, powerful website to succeed and do 1 to 3 deals a year? What do you guys think? You really don't. Okay. Do you need to spend thousands of dollars on 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 different entities to do 1 to 3 deals a year? Most of the time you don't. But again, the reality is, it sells money, right? Now, Tanya says it helps to have the internet. Tanya, I love what you're saying, and I don't want to trash websites. Let me ask you something. Can you set up a Facebook page and get 70 to 80% of the value of having a website on just a simple Facebook page? When you're first starting out, remember, you're just starting out trying to do 1 to 3 deals a year. You can. Now, when you get bigger and you're larger, a website's really useful. It's helpful, right? Now, remember, you guys got to be careful though. Remember, how many deals am I working on right now? How am I starting? Am I trying to get you into these big, like doing 30 deals a year? Not yet. Not yet. I'm trying to get you off the ground. Now, another thing you've got to understand about the process is how many people here have tons of money and tons of time? Most people don't have a lot of either. It's minimal. So now if you have a lot of money and experience, go for a big website, sure. But the point is this, and here's the key. Okay. You need to get a process that fits your situation. You need to understand how money works. You need to understand how debt works. You need to understand how cash flow works. If you don't, you make the wrong decisions. Okay. Really quickly, how many people do you think go out there in their first act of doing real estate? They go out there and buy themselves a rental and suddenly they're stuck. They've got this rental. It's not cash flowing. It took up all their money. It's taking up all their time. Have you ever seen that happen to anybody? Anybody seen that? Maybe you haven't seen that. That's exactly what happened to me, right? I bought that duplex, which wasn't a bad one, right? Hi, Yesenia. Okay. But then I started to try buying more rentals and I realized, wait a minute, this is not helping me. Okay. And we're going to explain that in just a minute, right? The learning is out of order, right? We're learning out of order. So for example, entities are incredible. Websites are incredible, but why are they the first thing we're doing? How about we just learn how to run comps first? What do you guys think? What's better first? Learn how to build a big website or learn how to comp properties? What's going to be better for you? Learning to run comps, right? How about what is more important? Creating 3 entities or learning how to do a deal analyzer? Doing a deal analyzer. So again, things are shared, but they're out of order, which means you're spending time on the wrong activities. And the marketing you do, this is a big one right here. The marketing you do makes others rich, but it doesn't make you rich. How many of you have gone out there and spent thousands on marketing and not really got any deals out of it? Anybody done that yet? You've spent out a ton of mailers. You subscribed to this site. They give you leads. You did that. Okay, Janet, yes. Lynn, yes. Tanya, not yet. Deidre, yes. Okay, it's very, very common. Steven says $20,000 and no deals. We're going to fix that, okay? Today, I'm going to tell you the truth about how you get deals. Now, I'll be honest. When I tell you the truth, some of you will not want to do real estate, okay? What do you think the truth is? I'll give you a little hint right now. What's the truth about finding deals? Can anybody tell me what the truth is? Yeah, you got to talk to a lot of people. Yeah, you got to pick up the phone. You got to call and call and call and talk and talk and talk. You see, when you get into the industry, nobody wants to hear that because that sounds scary, right? Calling people is terrifying. So everybody says like, hey, look, if you subscribe to my website and you send out all these mailers, then people will call you. You're like, oh, great, I don't have to call people. The leads will just call me. Guys, that's not really how it works. I mean, it does sometimes. It does work at some level. I'm not saying it's fully not true. But what I'm saying is we have a lot of half-truths being told, and those half-truths create these 5 problems. Okay? Am I
That's
crazy? Or am I onto
wrong.
something? What's that? Somebody said something there. Okay? Yeah. This should not be happening. So we're going to fix all that. Those are the 5 problems. You'll want to see how we're going to fix those. Okay. So again, we've introduced ourselves. We've said why real estate. We've given the 5 reasons new investors fail. Now we're going to get into some serious heavy work. I had some fun. Hopefully that was useful to give you some background, but let's get into the successful investors routine. Okay. You guys have your pencil sharpened. Are you ready to hear the truth about all this stuff? Not just all the problems. We're done with the problems. Now we're getting into how do you really make it happen, okay? Awesome. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick, Mike, how you doing? Mike Ox. It says OCS. Mike Ox. Okay. Tree says pencil. Yeah. So yeah, your pencil or your keyboard. Let's do this. Quick 5 minute. Let's go hit the restroom. Grab another cup of water. We're gonna come because this next section is gonna be intense. Okay. It's going to be intense and it's going to be a lot. And I'll need you all to be relaxed and having fun because I want you to get the big picture of this, but you want to be ready. So let's do a quick 5 minute break. Stretch your legs. We're back here with serious business in 5.
Hell no.
Kelly says you just lost my voice. Send the outline again. Yeah, I stepped out for a bit, Kelly. So I stepped out for a bit. So Carlos, you know what I
Hell
will
no.
do? If I can send you the handout, let me do this really quickly. Rose, I don't know if you're able to do this. Rose is so helpful and she's patient with me as I learn how to work with her effectively. But let me send. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a second. And I'm going to share with Rose the notes. Thank you, Rose. I'm going to share with Rose the notes. And what I want you guys to do is you can
Mm-mm.
good, Kelly. I'll send you the outline and it's going to give you just really some simple overhead outline of how I want you to take notes because I don't want you to overdo it. So Rose, I just sent you the outline. Awesome. Thank you, Janet. Yeah, Rose got Victoria on there. Love it. So I just sent the notes out. So if Rose will send those to you, maybe you guys get those printed. And then all I'm trying to show you is how big picture I want you to stay. Okay, because that's the bigger picture outline that you'll have. So I sent those over.
Hell no.
Anybody have any quick questions while we wait a minute or two for people to get their water and get back? Any quick questions? Hi, Jimmy. I think I've said hi to everybody here. I hope I have. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys. I think I found out. Yeah, thank you guys. I think we took care of who was saying swear words. Okay, thank you guys. I think we took care of people who weren't muting. Okay. All right, I think we're ready to rock and roll. That was a quick break. We'll take a little bit longer one here in just a minute, but oh, I need to share my screen again. Okay, I think there we go. Sue, you sent a Victoria. Okay. All right, guys, let's go through this really quickly. Well, this won't be quick. We have a lot of work here. Is everybody ready to rock and roll? Markar, good to see you here. I probably said your name wrong. I apologize. Is everybody ready to rock and roll? Okay, as we go through this, some of you will have seen this before, but I created this webinar, you can see my technology. I'm great at real estate. I'm not great at technology. We're gonna go through a couple routines here. You'll have heard some of this stuff before, but what I need you to do as we go through it is I need you to begin to shift your mind and your attitudes to really understand what's being shared here. Because if you do, it will bless you for a long, long time. When we talk about the successful investors routine, we're going to do a couple things. First of all, we're going to talk about what's called a two-piston engine and how you actually create wealth. That's kind of a big routine. And then we're going to talk about two smaller routines. We're going to talk about how active income is earned and how passive income is earned. Okay. There's a lot of content here. There's a lot. And so remember, do I want you to get into the weeds or do I want you to get the big picture? Which is it? Everybody type that in. What do I want, Donna? Big picture or in the weeds? Sue, Linda, yeah, remember that. We want this big picture. So I'm giving you a lot. Stay there and it will make a big difference, okay? So let's go. We're diving in. We're going to have a great time now. Let's get into this hardcore stuff. We're going to solve all the problems the industry's created so that we can get out of these kind of ruts we're in and just get up onto that road and get moving. First of all, again, this is what I mentioned. We're going to be doing the two-piston engine. We have active income and we have passive income. These are three things that matter. We're going to talk about each one in order. This one is going to take a lot of time. This one will take quite a bit of time. This two-piston engine will go quickly. Okay, so big picture, three things. Two-piston engine. One piston is active income. Second piston is passive. In fact, let me label it like that. That would be better. Active income is piston one. I should have labeled it that way to begin with. And passive income is piston two. Okay. All right, there. That makes it better and clearer. All right, so let's get into this. The two-piston engine, very simple. Number one, you have to have more income than you live on. And then number two, you buy passive income. That's how it works, okay? Now, a true mechanic would think I'm crazy because pistons work together, right? It's not like one is more important than the other. However, in the engine of finance, if you do not have extra income, then you really don't go anywhere. Okay. If you don't have extra income, it's really, really hard to get ahead in life. Okay. It's your active income that feeds your passive income. So you guys remember that duplex I bought? That duplex I had, right, all those years ago, that ugly looking, nasty little blue building. Okay. There's that duplex. Remember, I lived in this side and I fixed it up with my wife. Okay. How many years did it take that $6,000 to turn itself into 340? How many years did that take? You guys remember? It took 18 years. Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you have time to wait 18 years for your money to grow? Do you have time to do that? Not really. Okay. Not really. Now the reality is if you're younger, then you can have a bunch of these little rental boxes. They're awesome. But the reality is if you truly want passive income, you have to have it quickly. It's based on your net worth. So if you've got 2 million in net worth right now, and if you're somebody who already has high net worth, all you have to do is get that positioned effectively and you can retire. You can have 200,000 a year, great, passive. So if you have a ton of extra money, great, just go get it put appropriately. Most people don't. The problem is they go buy passive income too quickly, and what it does is it sucks out all your cash. Okay, we'll talk about it more in just a minute, but on the big picture, without getting into the weeds, please know you've got to have extra active income to really build your true passive portfolio. Okay, that's super, super duper important. If you don't have that, you end up going backwards. Okay, so active income feeds your passive income. Okay, how many of you kind of got into this industry saying, great, I'll just start right out, I'll buy 4 rentals right off the bat, and then I can retire on the cash flow? How many of you thought that right when you joined the industry? Oh yeah, I'll just buy 4 rentals. Anybody thought that? I did. That's what I thought. Okay. Yep, Donna, you got it. Okay. Stacy says, I was taught flip and buy rental. Okay, maybe a lot of you were taught property. So on that one, I may have to take my words back and say, no, you all had it right. But the point is, you've got to be careful there. Okay. Yeah, Lynn says, I thought that's all I knew my market, right? And of course, the markets have shifted too, so cash flow is a little bit different. So 2-piston engine, so very important. Here's another thing that you guys need to recognize, and this is why, like, nobody wants to talk about this, right? But guys, what happens to our active income in most cases? We start doing well, we start earning money, we start making a lot of cash. What happens to it? Yeah, Steven says he watched others fall into that trap. Yeah, and it's kind of a subtle trap. We spend more. Yeah, taxes come for sure, but we spend more. I have literally run across people who are making, $300,000 to, to $800,000 a year, and this is before inflation hit us, right? So let's say 10 years ago that you had been making $300,000 for 10 years straight. Could you have some money put away for retirement? Yes, you could. Okay. And so the reality is, a lot of us get active income and our style of living goes up. Now, you guys, if you get to know me very well at all, you will find out I'm a country bumpkin. I wear cargo shorts everywhere. I drive old cars. I live in old houses, right? I buy my rentals. I do my thing. I really don't spend a lot of money. Now, I came from that lifestyle. I came from the country where all my friends are country bumpkins, have a good time hunting, fishing, and camping. And so I don't really, my life isn't based on a lot of prestige, right? So my peer group doesn't require it of me. Okay. However, what you've got to recognize is, let's say you start flipping houses and suddenly you have $600,000 you don't need to spend. What are you going to be tempted to do? Yeah, lifestyle adjustments. You're going to get a bigger house. You're going to get a nicer car. You're going to go on vacation. Now, Stacy says invested. Thank you, Stacy. Right? If you're smart, you'll get this. But that requires that your logic overrides your emotion. Because emotion's like, well, gosh, I'll be more prestigious. Gosh, my in-laws will think I'm successful. Gosh, the neighbors will think I'm successful. Gosh, I'll feel successful. Gosh, that would be nice. Now, you can treat yourself for sure. Don't ever hesitate to treat yourself and enjoy life. That's what it's about. But if all that goes to lifestyle increase, you're in trouble. Guess what? For most people, it goes to lifestyle increase. Okay. Yep, Payam, I will definitely get you to recording, my man. And Mark says, who cares what neighbors think? Yeah, I wish I was a man enough to say that. I sometimes care, right? Peer pressure gets me. But you got to recognize active income. Once you make it, don't spend it elsewhere and get into the passive style. Okay. Yeah, Donna says, where does a scarcity mindset balance? Yeah, so there's another one, right, Donna? People talk about an abundance mindset and a scarcity mindset. And there's some value to that. But a lot of times the people talking about an abundance mindset are trying to get you to spend a lot of money on your credit card. Well, there is a balance here. You can be so abundantly mindset that you spend yourself into oblivion. You can be so scared of life that you do nothing and you take no action and you go nowhere. And so you're seeking the wisdom to have enough faith in life, not necessarily religious faith, but a faith in yourself and life that you take action and you celebrate, but wise enough that you celebrate effectively. Does that make sense? And it is a balance. You've got to learn it. And that's a part of what becoming an investor means. All right. So we're going to skip this one right now, but let's talk about our subroutine. Okay. This is our active income. Remember, I said we'd talk about the big picture, right? Our routine of active income versus passive. So we've got that lined out. We've got to make sure we're upping our active income so then we can buy passive. Oh, let me back up a little bit. Just so you guys know really quickly, how much extra net worth do you think you need? Let's not call it extra. How much net worth do you need to be able to actually retire? Now let's assume you want to retire with 100,000 to 200,000 that will adjust with inflation for the rest of your life. Roughly, where do you need to be? Stacy, you're spot on. What does your net worth need to be? Leslie says at least $1 million. Steven says 2 million. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to say 90K per year. I like that too, Donna. It's 1 million to 2 million. And if you know what you're doing, you can probably get about a 10% return, cash on cash return. So if you have $1 million, that's 100,000 a year. If you have 2 million, that's 200,000 a year if it's properly placed. Okay. Okay. Yeah, Marcus Sue says we already retired once. I love that, Marcus Sue. Well done. Okay. So if you're already retired, great. Then you might be doing this for something other than other than retirement, obviously. Yep. Payam says 1 million if you invest well and diversify correctly. Now, there are exceptions to that. There are ways to retire without having a ton of money, but generally speaking, you want that $1 to $2 million to make roughly 10% on it as you retire. Again, there's all kinds of things we could discuss, but what I want you to get is the big part is you've got to get a lot of net worth. Now, the way we're going to do that with real estate is we're going to use active income and we're going to use passive income. Let's talk about active income. Okay. Let's talk about the active income. All right. This is going to be awesome. I sent you this handout, so you should have been able to print this. This little document is gold. We're going to talk about it. It's going to represent how you successfully do real estate. We're going to correct a lot of the misinformation that you've been given to date. We're going to talk a lot about it in this particular slide. Okay. So if you're going to be doing 1 to 3 deals per year, you need to be a machine at every one of these steps. Okay. In other words, right before your eyes is a map, Lacey, of success. There it is. I promise you it's good. I promise you it's awesome. Okay. Let's talk about it, Nikki. Let's get into it, Lori. Let's discuss it. Let's look at the steps really quickly. Step one. Okay. As an active investor, I wake up in the morning and I'm finding buyers and I'm finding sellers. That's my first step. Okay. That's what I do. Now, really quickly, I've been doing this for how many years now? How many years have I been investing? 20 plus. Okay. So is there much I need to be learning each day? I mean, do I really have to wake up and learn a lot, or can I just go apply it? There's not much I need to learn. I've been around for so long. Most of my time is application. Obviously, I can always learn, and I'm always doing that. But what I'm telling you is what a professional does. When you're starting out, I'll show you in just a minute. There's a little bit different variation we have to give to it. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm always finding my buyers and I'm finding my sellers. So Craigslist, sending out to pre-foreclosures, probates, calling my agents, whatever. I'm always finding my buyers and sellers. That's my first step. Now, when I get a lead, okay, that lead comes into me and I do what we call our desktop appraisal. Okay. Now, our desktop, where is our desktop? Where's our desktop? Do we actually have to go into an office, Elliot, to have a desktop? Not at all, right? We can be sitting, in the park. We can be on our phone in an airplane. We can do all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah, a napkin. Right? We don't have to be anywhere. A desktop appraisal means we don't drive anywhere. Now, listen to me. Here's what most of you do, okay? You get a lead. Now, a lot of you are past this phase, right? So I say this for humor, but you can at least remember this phase, right? So you get this lead, right? And so you immediately go emotionally bonkers. You get all excited. You get all giddy, right? Like, oh my gosh, you probably call your friend and you call your parents and you call your neighbor. Like, oh, I've got a lead. 45 minutes later, when you've calmed down, right? When you've finally stopped hyperventilating, you then spend 2 or 3 hours looking at the lead on the internet. You're trying to figure out what its value is. You're trying to do this analysis on the thing. In addition to trying to run the comps, you're trying to estimate the repairs on the thing, okay? So like a day and a half later, you're exhausted, right? You probably went in late for work. You probably got on your computer during work. You drove by the property on your way to work. On your way back, you drove by it again, okay? Now, you still don't know what to do about it, so you call and talk to 3 or 4 friends about it, and then you keep analyzing it for the next week until finally, after a little bit of time, a week or 2, you're not sure what to do with it, and so it slowly dies out, the lead disappears, and then you start over with another lead, okay? How many of you have done that before? Okay? Probably very, very common. Very common. The other thing people will do is they'll spend all that time on they'll get the lead, spend all that time, and then what they'll do is they'll go immediately and try to make an offer. Like, okay, let's go make an offer. Okay? That's also wrong. What should happen, right? Because you go to make the offer, you know nothing about who? You know nothing about the seller. So here's what a professional investor does. Okay? Here's what a professional investor does. We get this lead, and literally we'll run in about 5 minutes or less. We're going to run a quick set of what we call sloppy numbers. Okay? Let me ask you, does sloppy mean accurate, Lena? Does sloppy mean accurate, Deidre? How about Irene? No, it's horrible. It's sloppy. Now, we don't do it sloppy on purpose. We just don't take a lot of time. So we do it as accurately as we can, but we do it sloppily. And so what we do is we do a quick set of, we run the after repair value, we run the estimated repairs, and then we run it through a deal analyzer, which tells us if we bought it, let's just say they're asking 300,000. If we bought it for 300,000, it says maybe I would lose 50 grand. Okay. Well, if their asking price of 300 would lose me 50, okay. Do I have to offer them less money than they're asking? They're asking 300, I'm gonna lose 50. Do I have to offer less? I do have to offer less, okay? This number is a sloppy number, but it prepares me for, and listen carefully, this is part everybody hates, it prepares me for what? Elliot, you're looking good today. It prepares me for a phone call, you guys. It prepares me for a phone call. This right here, I've already explained the number one reason why people don't get deals is they're not making phone calls. They're not picking up the phone. When I see a for sale by owner sign, I run some quick numbers and I pick up the phone. When I see an agent that has a lead, I pick up the number and I call the phone, right? I do a quick analysis. When I see a wholesale lead come through, I do a quick analysis, I pick up the phone. I was showing in one of the courses I'm teaching, I was showing somebody, I got a lead. We actually ran it this week. So we got the lead. I showed my team, hey, look, we got the lead. And I ran the comps in under 2 minutes. And then I texted the guy back, said, hey, it's not penciling out. Can you give me some other information? That fast, right? So I'm making this phone call. What's my goal when I make the phone call? Listen carefully. What I'm telling you right now is it's not a secret, but it's a secret. Okay. What's my job? Yeah, Elliot says, on your sloppy estimates, how do you come up with your numbers? So Elliot, I'm going to run comps on something like Zillow, and I'm going to estimate repairs based on the picture that I see or the description. So for example, Elliot, let's say that let's say the description says house needs, updating, needs a lot of work, and I see the house was built in 1972. Okay. I don't even have to go to the house. What do I know about the electrical, the windows, the roof, and the plumbing probably? Are they newer or are they probably older? They're probably older. Now, that may not be true. Maybe there's been some updates. But when I'm being sloppy, am I going to drive out there to verify everything? No, I'm not going to drive out there to verify everything. I'm going to make some assumptions. Now, when I look at the pictures of the house, because a lot of homes will have pictures, can I look and see if the windows have been updated? Can I look and see if there's maybe like a condenser that shows they've had like an upgraded HVAC system? Yeah, there are signs on the exterior of the home that generally tell me if it's been updated or not. What if I see architectural shingles? Are those newer or older? You think the architectural shingles are from the 70s, 80s, or 90s? Not really, right? Not, yeah, it would be newer. So the reality is, and here's what's so amazing when I work with people, is even though I'm saying this, it's emotionally hard to do it. Because when I do sloppy numbers, they're highly inaccurate, okay? But the problem is, and please hear me, this is worth a lot of money right here. When I'm in the second step here, what's more important, the house or the seller? What's the most important part of step 2, the house or the seller? Trudy, you got it. How desperate or motivated the seller is. It's the seller, you guys. It's the seller. It's not the house, right? It's not the house. It's the seller, right? It's so important. Why is that true? You guys tell me. Why do you think I'm saying that? Why is the seller the most important part here in step 2? If they're not motivated, no deal. Okay. How often do I have to make a lower offer than what they're asking? A lot or a little of the time? A lot of the time, right? I've got to make a lower offer a lot of the time. Not always, but close to always, okay? I almost always have to make a lot of the time, right? So if I have to make a lower offer and they're not motivated, is that going to work out? Yeah, I love what you say. So we have to listen to their need, okay? We have to listen to their need. That's exactly right. Well, a lot of the industry people like, oh no, just throw out a lot of offers. Just when you call somebody, make a low ball offer. We call somebody, make a low ball offer. Let me ask you guys this. If you're in a market for very long and all you do is call people who have no problems and you just make low ball offers, how long will it be before agents stop answering the phone when you call? Like literally. It's not going to be long, guys. Okay? It's not going to be long. Are people going to like you in that industry? No. So that's the point of the phone call. But you see, phone calls are hard to train and they're hard to sell. If I told you all that for our exercise and my training tomorrow, you're going to come, and when you come, you better have called 10 sellers. How would you guys feel? Be honest with me. Like you're in one of my classes. All right, I want you to take these 10 leads. I want you to scan them all. I want you to call every seller and have a conversation. How would you feel about that? You're going to call and talk to them. Mark says, okay. Eric and Tracy nervous. Yeah, Chris, like I know I do it, but maybe not know how. Steve says difficult. Let me be honest with you guys. I've been training people for 20 years. Guess how easy it is to get you to pick up the phone? I could probably get you to jump naked into a pit of alligators easier than I can get you to pick up the phone. Okay. Yeah, Elliot says I was doing HUD houses. Yeah, HUD houses have potential, but yeah, they're automated. Elliot, good share there. They're automated, so there's not a lot of chance for phone calls. However, as you get to know the agents and other people, there can be some space, even though HUDs have changed a lot over the years. But yeah, okay. So the reality is this phone call matters. This phone call is huge. This phone call is awesome. Trudy, Trudy, I hope I'm okay sharing this. Trudy was talking, and we've been working together. And she said, Ammon, picking up the phone has started to produce results, right? It started to produce results that it's actually working. People are calling her back. Now, again, we're working on getting all the deals going. But, and I don't know, Trudy, if like the condo you got is a result of you picking up the phone more, if that was coming from a different channel. But Trudy was telling me just yesterday or the day before that picking up that phone has made a difference. Okay. Chris says, where's the 50K number coming up from? Let's see what I come with 50K. Oh, I just need to drop the price by 50K. I just made it up, Chris. I just made it up a 50K loss. That's it. Okay, 50K loss. Now, when I make this phone call is hard because the phone call has to do with you, Irene. It has to do with you, Stephen. It has to do with you, Esther. I have to train you to make that phone call. That's hard to train. This is why most investors don't have good deals. Guys, I can wake up in the morning and get on the phone and literally call dozens of people by the end of the day. And I've done it in a way where they don't hate me. They haven't rejected me. I've opened up some opportunities and maybe even found something to make an offer on. How many of you right now possess that skill where you literally can wake up in the morning and you can look at all the real estate listings and pick up the phone, all the for sale by owners and pick up the phone. You can call the probates and pre-foreclosures. And for the most part, you can have a pleasant day chit-chatting with people and you can uncover the leads where they have real problems, right? Okay, Donna can, sweet. Okay. If you're able to do that, then you should be finding real problems. Okay. Trudy, you're doing great. Here's what you do in the phone call. Now, I've got to say this too, and we'll talk about more of this in a minute. Right here in an hour or so, we'll talk more about this. There's a difference between, and when you make the phone call, you know, it can be comfortable, yes, but it has to go somewhere. Okay, it has to go somewhere. So your biggest job is to find the motivation. Okay. Now I'm going to tell my motivation story because I like my motivation story, and it's something that you all have to understand. Like literally, and most people think they get it, but they don't. Okay. We are finding people who have problems. Let me ask you a question really quickly. Okay. Yeah, Payam, would you share that with me? I won't. You shared that with me. Would you share it with me on Facebook, Payam? Connect with me there, just because I won't see it from the chat here in a bit. It'll scroll past. Okay. Let me give you guys an example. I make a phone call to a seller and I'm trying to determine motivation. Okay. Let me give you a scenario. Somebody has moved out of state. They moved out of state because they got a job that pays them 4 times what they used to make. Okay. The company is paying for their mortgage, and their brother, the real estate agent, lives next door. But now the house is vacant. They're already out of state. Does this person have problems? Yes or no? Everybody vote. Okay, I'm getting some yeses and mostly no's. You're correct. There are no problems there. Okay, they don't have any problems. No, 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 no. Let's go look at it really quickly. They got a job out of state where they're making 4 times what they made in state. Is that a problem? No, that's an opportunity. Okay, the company is paying their mortgage until the house sells. Is that a problem? No, that's an opportunity. Their brother lives next door. Is that a problem? No, it's an opportunity. So sure, the house is vacant, but look at the situation surrounding it. There is nothing at all wrong with this situation. The person's got life good. Should we make a lowball offer on that house, or should we say, hey, good for you, man. Congratulations. You have a great day. What do you think? Make an offer because we were told by some salesman that we should, or just tell them good for you, high five, and say you rock it, and give him a good agent. Well, he already has a good agent, right? Move on, move on. That's not trained in most companies. Here's what's going to happen. Okay, you have to learn to look at motivation. This is right here. I promise you, this right here is the hardest part of training people because it has to do with soft skills, and most of the time we really don't do it right. Okay, but here's the thing. I'm going to draw out what my motivation looks like. And I don't think this is overkill. I think it's important. So maybe it will be, but we'll see. All right. So here's a little town. Okay. And here's a hotel. And here's this gentleman who's come in. He has a sales call. It's Thursday, right? And he's got his Lamborghini. He's shown up to this place. It's 1 a.m. It's Thursday morning. He gets out of his Lamborghini and he's crossing the road to the hotel. Now it's a rural little town, sleepy, so there are no cars on the road. Here's a question: is he motivated to get across the road? Wait, Tina. Is he motivated, Stacy, Stephen, to get across the road? It's kind of a trick question, you guys. Okay, I'm going to say that yes, he's motivated, right? So, for example, he's crossing the road. Is he going to stop in the middle of the road and eat breakfast? Is he going to take a nap in the middle of the road? Is he going to call his wife and say, hey, I made it in the middle of the road, right? No, he is definitely motivated to get across the road for sure. We're going to say he's motivated for sure. But now we're going to change it. Now it's tomorrow morning. He gets out of the hotel. He goes to a sales meeting, which is on the same side of the road. Sales meeting goes fine. It's 11 a.m. He's done. He's done for the week. He gets to go home, have a long weekend with his family. So he's headed back to his car. But suddenly a pack of wild, ravenous dogs, right? Evil, mean, dogs see him and they start Doberman Pinschers and Pit Bulls and Rottweilers and just foaming at the mouth, and they're coming for him. He's like, oh my gosh. And he starts running. He's running. He knows if they catch him, they will devour him. But the problem is he's heading towards the road. Now there are cars on it. Yeah, Kudo. Thank you, Mark. Kudo is after him. Okay. There's a semi with a bunch of cars after it. And there's a semi here with a bunch of cars after it. So now, if he stops, the dogs will eat him. If he gets caught in the middle of the road, he'll die. His only chance is to get to this side of the road in order to live. Okay? Frogger. Exactly, Nikki. Thank you. So is he motivated more now or more motivated in the morning? Which was it? More motivated when he got to the hotel or more motivated now? Now, okay? So this is my big M, little m story. If you ever train with me, or if you're in any of my classes, or you ever hear me talk, you're going to hear me talk about little m and big M. Where do you think we get the deals? Okay, Elliot, I like that. We're gonna talk about it in just a second. So Elliot made a good point. He says, yeah, man, I'm fine calling people. He says, but I can't find the deals. I can't find them. Okay. And you guys, both of you, because I've had several of you talk about, hey, I'm good on the phone, but I can't find the deals. Several of you said that. So let's make sure we address that specifically. If I haven't, by the end of this, make sure that you hold me to that. Okay. All right. In other words, you guys, we have to find this problem. We have to find it. Does that make sense? So I had a situation a long, long time ago. This is one of my favorite stories because it was so perfect. I was literally on Craigslist and I saw an ad in the paper, or I was in the paper, it was online. And the gal said, I forget what she said, but I was like, something doesn't sound right here. Her price was way too high. Okay, so Elliot, this might help you a little bit. Okay, so she was asking 130,000 for a house in a town that is almost dead out here where I live. And I was like, that's just way too high. But something about it was like, I think she's got a problem. So I went ahead and called her anyway. So really quickly, why am I calling a lead when the price is way too high? Why am I calling a lead when the price is way too high? That's what we do. That's what phase 2 is all about, right? Yeah, I'm curious. Something I was like, something sounded. Now I don't call every lead, but I was like, something sounds off. So I called her up and I said, hi, my name's Ammon. Look, I saw your ad on Craigslist. Tell me about your house, right? So she starts talking and I'm like, okay, so how did you come up with the asking price? So I'm not trying any clever pitches or anything. I'm listening. I'm asking questions. And she says, well, the realtor. I said, oh, I said, well, I guess I'm a little confused. I thought you were selling this. I didn't realize an agent was involved. And she said, oh, no, the agent who had it listed. I said, interesting. I said, so how long did that agent have it listed? Oh, for a year. Okay, so he had it in a year for 130. She says, yeah. I said, so you're listing at 130. She says, yes. Okay, what do you guys think about this situation right now? Listed for a year, hasn't sold. She gets rid of the agent, lists it by herself for 130. What do we think? Is this like somebody who's thinking like effectively or not thinking effectively? Not effectively. Okay, not effectively at all. I said, okay. I said, can I ask why didn't it go at 130, right? And so she tells me, oh, the foundation isn't financeable and it has a cesspool, not a septic. Okay, all right, gotcha. Okay, now what do we do from here? So does this? I don't know if this gal is motivated or not, right? So I'm like, okay, well, she owned it. I said, well, do you owe anything on? No, I don't. All right. Okay, why are you selling it? Oh, I've got some really bad tenants in there. I need to pay off some medical bills. Okay. But she owes nothing. She had an agent. Well, I just said, look, I said, I'll be honest with you. I'm an investor. I buy houses, I fix them up and resell them. And if the foundation isn't good and it doesn't have a septic, I mean, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to be impolite, but I mean, I have to come between $50,000 and $70,000. Can you even consider that? She said, yeah, I can consider that. So that's what told me, okay, she has more motivation than she was letting on. Okay. So why did I get that lead? Well, I called it because there was something in her listing that made me think about it. I called a property that was way too high, asked a few questions. Now, if I had found out she wasn't motivated, I just said, hey, thank you for your time today. God bless you. I'm not the right buyer. You have a great day. Bye-bye. Well, I ended up buying that property for 40 grand. We burned down the house for 10 grand. And then I sold it on a note for 130, like the same price that she was trying to sell it to me for. I sold it. Okay. We made a lot of money on that deal. All right. But had I not made the phone call, I wouldn't have made money. And a lot of times when we're talking about finding deals, you're either calling the wrong leads, doing the wrong numbers, or negotiating improperly. In this case, I called the right lead, even though the price was wrong. So Elliot, I don't know, where you're at, or Stephen, sometimes when I find new investor or find investors that aren't finding deals, they're often calling the wrong leads. But that's an example of me using that phone call. Very little time analyzing, and then I make the phone call. All right, now, does everybody get the point that the phone calls are incredibly important? Okay. So maybe let me ask you this too, Elliot. This might help too. Let me ask you this too. Like, how many phone calls on a given week when you're looking for properties? How many phone calls will you make on a given week? You're out hunting. You're trying to find a deal. Carlos, no, the seller had gotten rid of the agent, so it was a for sale by owner at this point. So how many calls will you make? Because I'll tell you guys, if I don't have a deal and I'm hunting, it's not uncommon for you to make anywhere between 30 to 100 calls in a week where I'm hunting for a deal. Easily 30 to 100. 30 would be a small side. If I'm really hunting, I'm making a lot of phone calls. If you're making less than that, you're probably not going to find very many deals. Okay. All right. Now, if the phone call produces something, okay. So we'll keep working on it, Elliot. We'll keep trying to find what's going on there. But the point is, if I find somebody with that motivation, that's when I set up the time to go to the property. That's what I told this guy. I said, I tell you what, since you're willing to hold on. Is there a repeat on your guys' side? Or did it go away? Hopefully it went away. Okay. All right. So what I did is if they're motivated, then I go to the property. So I told this guy, I said, I tell you what, I'm going to try to get you the highest price I possibly can. And then we're going to go ahead and I'll make an offer. So I drove to her property, and that's where I do my field analysis. Well, guess what? My numbers were sloppy here, but now when I do my field analysis, I'm going to do them much better. I'm going to do much better numbers out here at the field analysis. Why? Because I can drive by the property now. I can look at properties around it. I can run comps. I can spend time. And so now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do much better numbers really quickly. When I go to the property, is it more about the seller or more about the property when I'm doing my field analysis? More about the property or more about the seller? It's still more about the seller, guys. It's still more about the seller. Okay. It's still more about the seller, because this is something you're not really taught, right? You're just taught to throw out lowball offers. But when you talk with who signs contracts, sellers or properties? Does the house sign the contract or does the owner sign the contract? Yeah, the owner signs the contract. So the property is just a set of numbers, right? but it's the owner that has the power. So if you haven't understood that owner and solved their problem, you're not going to get the deal. Okay. So your job when you go to that house is to continue to talk with the seller to understand where they're coming from. What do they need? What do they want? Let's say I have two scenarios. In scenario one, I show up and say, hey, your house is a piece of crap, and I make a low offer. That's scenario one. Okay. Or scenario two, gosh, Susan, I'm really sorry that your mom passed away, and I know you've been working hard to fix this house up, and I know you need cash quickly. Look, if I could buy it quickly, would that help you and your uncle? It would. Okay. Look, if you didn't have to clean it out, could I help? Would that help you and your uncle? Oh, that would. Oh, okay. Look, if I could do cash and not get a lender, so you could know this is for sure done, would that help you and your uncle? Oh, it would. Okay, gotcha. Well, you know what? If I can add those things, if I can do it quickly, if I can take it as it is, if I can use cash, you know what? Would you be willing to lower your price for me because I can't quite do it at 30,000. I can do it at 18, but unfortunately, to give you those values I'm going to give you, I need that discount. Would that be a fair trade? Which scenario is going to get me the lower price? The one your house is crappy, give me a lower price, or second, if I solve these problems, can you give me the price? Yeah. If I can solve these problems, literally, I went to a house in Winslow where I have hopefully one under contract by Monday, right? Literally, this gal, the story was exactly that. She had inherited the house from her sister who had got it from her grandma. The house had been trashed. Her sister was a hoarder. So she and her uncle for like 2 or 3 months had gone over and cleaned it out. And they just realized we don't know how to fix this up. They were going to try and flip it themselves. And they're like, we don't know. And so she put it on there as a potential, hey, a fix and flip. So I showed up, and guess what? The reality was other investors had already been there. But I said, well, tell me, what are you looking for? What's going on? Gotcha. Well, tell me a little bit more about the house. And she said, oh, well, it was my grandma's house. And I used to come over and we used to have dinners here on Sunday. I used to dance there on the step. And I said, oh, wow, those are really special memories. I said, can I ask, how long ago did your grandma pass away? She said, oh, 17 years. Here's what's interesting. I wasn't trying to manipulate her. I wasn't trying to be a salesman. I said, oh, wow. I said, 17 years. She was so emotional about it. I said, you know what? That's a long time ago. Those have to be some of the best memories of your life. Okay. Like she tears up, like she starts crying. Says, yeah, they were. Okay. All I was doing was listening. I wasn't trying to manipulate her. I said, you know what? We do incredibly good work. When we buy this house, we're going to remodel it. So when your grandma in heaven sees it, she can see another family dancing, raising kids like she did with you. It's going to be beautiful. We do great work. Now, guys, I wasn't trying to manipulate her. We really do good work. Okay. So I made her an offer. She accepted mine at 18. I learned later she had an offer at 21. Why did she take mine at 18? Was it because I was focused on the house? Is because I was focusing on her. That's why you get deals. So again, the fact of the matter is phase 3, when I come here and I do much better numbers, you're still not perfect. You're still focused on the seller. Okay. I built a relationship. You're exactly right. Yeah, and Elliot, we can talk specifically about California and stuff in a separate place, but right now I want to keep the topics a little bit broad. But even in California, right? Or let's shift it a little bit. Well, no, let's not. That's a whole different set of stories. Let's keep going, and maybe we'll come back to that other point. But you guys see what I'm saying? I'm talking to the people. Well, guys, do you learn how to do this stuff by just submitting lowball offers, or do you have to read books like Spin Selling and Crucial Conversations and How to Hug a Porcupine? Do you learn this stuff just by listening to videos, or do you have to call dozens of people and practice these conversations? You got to practice, guys. You don't get this without phone calls. You don't get this without messing up. That's the problem. Most companies don't want to tell you that, because then you're like, crap, I've got to do a little bit of sales. And that's exactly what you have to do. And so a lot of people are like, that's not for me. I'm going to step away from this. Guys, you got to learn this. Now, let's say that you decide what's going on, you understand the seller, you make an offer, and they say, yes, good. They write a contract. Check. Well, now you have a contract signed. We're now in our due diligence phase. Okay. So phase 4 is when we do our due diligence. Phase 4 is when we're going to do our perfect numbers. Okay. How many of you are weirded out by that? How many of you are like, what do you mean I'm doing perfect numbers at phase 4? Anybody think that's weird? Anybody think that's a little odd that I'm making an offer before I've done my perfect numbers? And by perfect, I mean best possible. A lot of you have been around a while, so you get what I'm saying. Anybody confused by that? Or are we all good? I think you're all good. Okay, you're all good. All right. So That's when we do our due diligence. Why? What happens if we find a problem doing our due diligence? What can we do? What happens if we find a problem during our due diligence? What can we do? We can talk with the seller. We can renegotiate. We can back out. How many of you would be okay backing out of a deal? You made the offer, you negotiated it, you've got it signed, everything's good to go, and you come back and say, hey, I did some research and this just isn't going to turn out. How many of you would be okay with that? Okay. So Lynn's done it. Okay, that's important. Now, a lot of people say they're good at it until like we get out there and we're doing it, and suddenly they're like, well, I don't want to back out. I'm gonna look stupid, right? Those kinds of things. But the reality is you need to be comfortable backing out. Now, listen to what I talked about here. We don't do perfect numbers in our first step. We don't. We do sloppy numbers, then we do better numbers, and then we do perfect numbers. Now, when I did a phase 1 training, you'll see what that means in here in a minute. It's amazing when I was running comps with the team, how often they just wanted to go to the field analysis, how often they wanted to focus on the numbers. And I did this sloppy number and like, well, Ammon, how do you know that number's right? I said, I don't know it's right. I know it's in the ballpark, but I don't know that it's right. We'll probably go to the house and find out there's more repairs than I thought there were, but I have enough to make the phone call. It's amazing how emotionally we resist those calls. Okay. If you look at my phone numbers and what I'm doing constantly, you would be amazed at the amount of phone calls I make to go hunt down deals. Okay. So these sets of numbers are so important and they get consistently better, but we're talking about the seller here, okay, and then here we're fully focused on the house. Now, if you look at this situation, it's only when we get to this step right here, step 3, that wholesaling comes into bear, right? We've actually found a lead, done a desktop appraisal, made the phone call. They're definitely motivated. So we go to the property, do better numbers, make our offer. They accept our offer, boom. Now we're in steps 4 and 5 where we do due diligence and we close and renegotiate. This right here in step 4 is where we're going to assign the contract, or if we can't assign it, in step 5 is where we're going to double close it, okay? Yeah, Roxanne asked a beautiful number. Ammon, is earnest money involved? What do you guys think? Roxanne, beautiful question. If in phase 3 I've made an offer, am I going to put earnest money down in most cases? What do you guys think? Answer that for Roxanne real quickly. Yep, Margaret Susan, you're right. Yep, I'm absolutely going to do that. Yes, 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 and yes. I'm going to do that. Okay. Yep, I'm going to do that. And Steven says 10 to 100 bucks in Idaho. And what you're going to do, Steven, is because you're listening to your sellers, if you have a seller that needs you to put 5,000 in earnest money because that's what's going to get them to trust you, you'll put 5,000 down, right? You'll do it safely, but that's what you'll do. If you have a seller that doesn't care, you'll put 10 bucks down. But correct, anywhere from 10 bucks to 20 grand. I put 20 grand in earnest money before. So what's the answer, right? Because Roxanne asked a great question, right? What's the answer? Let's say answer for Roxanne. Let's say that Roxanne put 5,000 earnest money down and now the property's under contract. What's her answer? Yeah, Roxanne says, that's why I prefer true numbers first. Roxanne, I love you to death and I know how you're feeling, but really quickly, okay, well, we'll come back to it in just a second. Okay, what's the answer to Roxanne? Let's say I put 5,000 down and now I'm in step 4 and I find out that the numbers are wrong. What happens? Do I get my earnest money back? Yeah, it's refundable. It's refundable. Okay, so you get it back. Now let's think about it for a second. Let's say you're a homeowner and you have potentially 10 people invested in your, interested in your property. Do you want to have 10 people come through your house and traipse through your house in order to make an offer? And do you want to get 10 inspections? Do you want all those people coming through your house? No, you don't. And if you're a buyer, do you want to spend money on an inspection and time on an inspection when you have 10 competitors? No, you don't. And so the system, Roxanne, has set it up such that this due diligence period is designed where you're allowed to look at the property. And if you've written up correctly, thank you, Roxanne, if you've written it up correctly, you can back out and get your money back. So even though your emotions are terrified at doing that, logically, what's the best way of doing real estate? Doing all your numbers perfectly up front or doing them after it's under contract? After it's under contract. Roxanne, when I made my first offer years ago, I remember driving with my real estate agent because we made the offer. And I remember because I had the property, it had the inspection clause in there, but my concern, my heart's doing this, right? And And I said to my agent, I said, well, who does the inspection? And he said, well, you can do it. And I was like, well, doesn't a licensed inspector need to do it? I'm just a 22-year-old kid. I'm a punk. And so he said, no, the contract says you personally get to do the inspection. I said, so how do I back out? He said, well, we just let them know. We sent them a letter and we let them know that we're backing out. I was like, well, don't I have to be qualified? What happened, what was interesting is my agent's driving the car and he just slowly turns the car like I'm a nut job. And he's like, dude, if you don't like what we find, you just let them know and you back out. It's that simple. And he like slowly, like his eyes are really wide, he slowly goes back to the front. He's like, this guy is like freaking out. And it's true, I was terrified because I wasn't used to this process. And so the secret is know the process, understand it, and then if you've written your contract properly, then you can get your money back, right? Roxanne, you're awesome. Okay. Yeah, Donna says, I keep feeling fear with submitting contracts. Guys, is it natural to feel afraid when you submit legal documents? Of course it is. Okay, of course it is. We're going to talk about it more in just a second. Okay. But again, a guy like me, I do this. We get to stage 4. If I want to, this is where I'm going to assign the contract, which means I'm going to sell the contract to somebody else. Or if I can't assign the contract, I'm going to go ahead and do what's called a double close and wholesale it. Okay. So this is where those happen. All right. We're not going to talk a lot about wholesaling today. That's not what today is about. But I want you guys to see this map, that this is what's going on. These are the steps that a professional investor takes. And of course, they're always raising money. 0 through 6, they're always raising money. That's what's happening. Okay. This is what I do all day, every day, constantly and forever. Any quick questions before I kind of shift gears a little bit on this? Any quick questions before I shift gears? If you do, put them in the chat box. Okay. All right. What are some things that you've realized you need to do better? You're welcome. Stevie says, thank you for the perspective shift to the seller. You're welcome. It's an incredibly important shift. What are some things you've learned? Steven says, now focus on the seller. What else is different than maybe what you've been doing in the past? And maybe not. Maybe you're doing this perfectly. If you're doing this perfectly, then you should be getting deals, and we'd have to diagnose another challenge. But what are some things you've recognized you'll have to do better? Focus on the seller. Okay, good. That's the best takeaway you can do. Tony says, sometimes I'm not able to find good comps. Okay. Yeah. So if I don't find good comps, can I extrapolate it a little bit and make the phone call anyway? I can, Tanya, but that's a great point. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Roxanne says, I need to pick up the phone. Yes. And that's how Steven says we need to identify qualified leads. Guys, generally speaking, you are going to find leads by picking up the phone. Guys, you ever gone, and Tao says finding motivation. I love it. Have you ever gone fishing? Like here's a river and you need another worm. And sitting along the side of the bank, you've got a bunch of rocks. What's the only way to determine if there's a worm under that rock? What's the only way? You got to turn it over, guys. That's it. And so now when you turn the rocks over, I'm in Arizona. Okay. In Arizona, how many rocks do I have to turn over to get a worm in Arizona? We do have worms. We do have some water in the state. I've got to do a lot. I've got to turn over 10 to 15 rocks to find myself one worm. Now, maybe where you live, that's not the case. Okay. Yeah, Lynn's like more than in Oregon. Okay. Is there any parallel to finding real estate deals? Of course there is. Okay. But the problem with most people is they don't turn over the rocks. They're waiting for the rock itself to turn over to see a worm on the bank. You've got to turn over the rocks. Okay. Now let's shift this a little bit. Let's shift this. Let's say you're brand new and you're trying to learn how to do this thing. All right. Let's say you're new and trying to learn this thing. Are you going to learn in order? Are you going to learn step 1 first, then learn step 2, or learn step 3? What do you think? This is kind of a trick question. I like Jay says, know how to focus on a specific target market and approach. And that is useful too. Okay, Leslie says start with step 1. Let me ask you this. Let's say you're going to go in and bake cookies today. You're going to bake cookies, you're going to bake bread, and you get the recipe out. Do you always go get the first recipe out of the cupboard? Or if you happen to be standing by the cupboard that has the vanilla and the flour and the yeast, you grab it first. And then when you're by the fridge, right, you go ahead and grab the milk and the butter out of there, right? You get them in order. You just grab everything kind of all at once and get it on the table. What do you guys think? When you're baking, how does it work? And yes, I can make a mean batch of cookies if you're asking. Okay. Nothing wrong with cooking. Okay, Marcus, Susan, get it by the ingredient list. Okay. All right. I don't. When I get the recipe out, the recipe book sits generally by the chocolate chips and the oatmeal and the flour. So those don't go in first always, right? But I get them out because they're by the cookbook. And then when I go to the cupboard, it's got the salt and it's got the baking soda or baking powder, one of the two. And it's got the vanilla. I grab those, even though they don't necessarily go in that order. And so the reality is I grab that stuff out. And Carlos, by the way, says, will a realtor provide information about the seller's motivation if you ask them? If you know how to work with an agent, Carlos, yes, they will. Okay, if you know how to do it. So when you're learning how to flip a house, it's the same thing. You don't learn how to market first. Stop it. Don't learn how to market first. First, learn how to run an ARV. First, learn how to estimate repairs. First, learn how to fill out a deal analyzer. That's important. When you're first getting started, learn how to fill out a contract before you market. Why would I have you learn these things before you learn how to market? Who can tell me? Why would it matter to learn those things first? Because you need them. You've got to have them, right? Let's say a seller calls me and says, hey, Ammon, I've got a property. How do I even go to step 2 if I don't have the skills to process it? I can't. I'm stuck. So when you're learning to become an investor, you are going to learn things out of order. You're going to learn things first that you don't use first. Does that make sense? That is so important for you to understand. Let's assume this. Let's say I'm a soldier. Okay. When a soldier wakes up in the morning, okay, and they're out in the battlefield and they wake up in the morning, what's one of the first things they do? They go hunt the enemy, don't they? That's what a soldier does. They wake up in the morning, like, all right, we got to go find and engage the enemy. That's what they do. Now, let's imagine that you are a soldier, that you never got your camo, you never got trained on how to use a rifle, you have no idea how to use explosives. Are you going to have a very good day? Right? You never learned any of this, so you run out to find the enemy. Let's pretend it's your child that went to boot camp. And the person said, the drill sergeant says, you don't need camo or rifle or explosives. Just go find the enemy. Are you as a parent excited about that drill sergeant, or are you upset? You're upset at that drill sergeant. You're very upset, right? Your child's important to you. Well, guess what happens? A lot of the companies out there, the first thing they're telling you is go market, go market, go market, go market. So we all show up. Why are they telling us to market when we first show up? What's the reasoning behind their drive to go market? Go find it. Now, finding the enemy and marketing isn't really the same, but you get the, hopefully you get the, you get the analogy here, right? Hopefully it's good enough to get the point. Why do they want you marketing right off the bat? Okay. Do they sell you leads? Yeah, they get you to buy leads from them. You get to market, right? That kind of a thing, right? And so they also get you to feel like you're taking action, even though it's not effective action. You're taking action, right? And you're spending money. So it's not the best process. You've got to learn some things first before you start marketing. That's why when I wake up in the morning, I can start with marketing as my step 1 because I already know how to use the tools. If I find the enemy, I know how to engage them. If I find a seller, I know how to operate on it, right? Let me show you a property I made an offer on really quickly. And this is one we got under contract real quickly. Let's go to Zillow. So this is kind of a tiny little town in Arizona. Okay. My agent sent me that lead. Okay. So that lead pops up on my phone about a week ago. And my agent says, Ammon, you can have this thing for $100,000. Okay. How much time did I spend looking at comparables? You guys guess. How long did I spend looking at comps? I spent about 3 minutes. That's what I spent. Okay. Then I called my agent. I said, what's going on with it? What's happening? It actually looks like a pretty nice house. I can't imagine why they're trying to sell it for so little. And she said, well, it really is trashed. And so come in here. Right. Investor specialist, true fixer upper in need of complete overhaul. Bring your vision and tools prior to being sold out. It is cash only. Right. But there's no internal pictures. Okay. So one thing I know, because I've been out there, completely in the market considerably. Number one, is I know that this is a bad neighborhood. Emotionally, when most of you think bad neighborhood, how many of you are going to avoid it and say, well, I don't like bad neighborhoods? How many of you are going to avoid the bad neighborhood? Now, let me be clear. In Arizona, bad neighborhoods just means trashy. It doesn't mean I'm going to die. Okay. At least in my part of Arizona. Okay. That's right. The Eagles do sing a song and there's a statue there. Okay. So in my area, it's not like life threatening. But a lot of investors are like, oh, it's a bad neighborhood. I know this. So I know a lot of people and investors around are like, oh, this is a bad neighborhood. The second thing is it's a manufactured home. What do I know about people in manufactured homes? Do they like them or dislike them? I know they dislike them. So I know that my competition might not be very high. So in 2 minutes, I call my agent. Hey, do we know why this guy is saying the place is trashed? I can see that the roof is bad, but I mean, are there leaks inside? What's going on? She says, well, he says there's lots of pet stains in there. Okay. You guys, do pet stains destroy the structure of a home? They do not. So I'm like, okay, I can't see anything structurally wrong with this thing, right? I see a fence around it, that adds a lot of value. I see an outbuilding, that adds a lot of value. I see it's on 2 acres, that adds a lot of value. So I said, all right, well, would you call the listing agent? Because he's making it sound like it's horrible. He says, you need a mask to go in there. I'm like, okay. They seem like just by their response and by the agent talking about you have to have a mask and not having any pictures, I'm like, I don't think the agent even went inside. Am I sensing that they're motivated or not motivated? They didn't go inside. They're saying that, guys, I've been in some nasty houses. Okay, so pet smells are nasty, but I can deal with pet smells, like similar nastiness. I'm getting that they're motivated, right? If they were a little more serious about it, they'd put a little nicer description. They would have gone inside and gotten pictures. They would have tried to downplay, right? They would have downplayed the issue. I said, well, would you call them and see kind of where we can come in at? I said, if we can get it for 60, I'll make an offer now. But if that's going to be rude, I think that's inappropriate, let me know and we'll go where we come back from, or we'll see where we can go. So my agent calls back, says the gal's in prison, right? So it's a drug-related issue, and so there's some issues in there. I said, was the house drug-ridden? No, but there are leaks in the house. And she said she owes more than 60. So guess what? She owes more than 60. So, but maybe around 80 we could go for. I said, well, make the offer, put an inspection clause in there. Do you think that they would like they would allow an inspection? She says, I think the agent would be fine with it. Okay. Now, really quickly, somebody is in prison and they have their agent selling it for them. Do you think this is a good situation where I'm going to try a subject to get the seller to let me take over the loan? They have a power of attorney involved. They've got attorneys. They've got an agent. The person's not even around. Is this going to be better cash, or am I going to try to do seller financing? What do you guys think? Yeah, cash is the right move on this one, right? I've got attorneys and they're dealing with it long distance, and it's kind of I've got agents all over the place, and I'm just like, agents don't understand it. It's all cash. Well, the point is, I said, well, okay, make the offer at 80. Have I even been to the property yet? I haven't been there yet, but I know they're motivated. I made the phone call. I checked it out. Guys, it's a very rural place. I know my market, but the point is I'll make the offer. Now, when I go out and look at it, I'll find out if I can actually really do the project. So we've got it accepted. We're going forward with it. So we'll be out there first thing next week to go through and walk through this particular house and see what's going on. But I think we're going to put 100,000 into it to make it nice. I think it will sell for probably around 280. Okay. What do you guys think? Good deal or not a good deal? It's a good deal. Okay. Look at my process though. How much time did I spend? Well, I had an agent send it to me right off the MLS. I did my desktop appraisal in 2 minutes. I called my agent. Okay. I'll be getting it for 80, Donna. So I called my agent. My agent called their agent, got them to kind of give me the situation. I went ahead and made my offer quickly because the situation was motivated. In this case, I didn't even go to the field analysis. I said, well, why should I make the offer? Because they sound like they're receptive to it. We made it. Now, what if my agent would have said, Ammon, these guys want cash with no contingencies? Would I have gone to the property before I made my offer? What do you guys think? If the seller said, look, we need cash, we need no contingencies at all, like no escape clauses, I would have gone to the property. But I listened to the seller, why it's about the seller, not the house. Ask me, does the agent want me to avoid any inspections? No, I talked to him. He's fine with inspections. Sweet. Then I saved myself the effort and I made the call. This is what I do because I have all the tools. I know how to run comps. I know how to talk to sellers. I know how to fill out a contract. I know how to open escrow. That's why I can wake up in the morning and start marketing. If I don't know that, then I've got to learn these skills before I go to market. Is everybody with me here? Okay. And again, if you don't know how to make the phone call, you can spend a lot of money making calls constantly. Okay, if you can't do the phone call well. Now, let me ask this really quickly. How many of you have ever been in sales? Say me if you've been in sales, say no if you haven't. Yes, Donna, that's a good comment right there. I'm saying, okay. Okay, let me ask you, if you go to a sales floor, is it easy to teach sales? So let's say you have 20 people on the sales floor. Can a teacher come in and teach all 20 within a week to be good salespeople? No. Why? Why is sales harder to learn? Tell me, what's so hard about sales? It's people skills. Feels very uncomfortable, feels like pressure, right? You have to be outgoing. Psychology is involved. You're dealing with different people. Okay. Well, let me ask you, you guys are all giving good answers. This phone call, what do you think it is? Am I talking to a robot or is this a sales type situation? What is it? It's a sales type situation. Now, here's what's interesting. Most of us feel uncomfortable with sales because for most of us, sales is a high pressure game. For most of us, sales is where we trick the other person. Now, is that what I would want to train you guys to do, is be these really slick snake oil salesman type people or just go in there and take advantage of people? Is that what we're trying to do? No. So there is another kind of sales where you just communicate effectively, where you listen, where you solve their problems, where you understand. And if you're a good kind of salesperson, you're listening and they don't need your help, are you going to try and get the house? No. Let me share another example with you. So this is years ago. I had an ad in the paper, and this is when we still advertised in papers. And a gal called me and says, Ammon, I am facing foreclosure and I want you to buy my house. I said, okay, well, do you really want to sell that house? No, we do not. So you want to keep it? We really do. Okay, well, what happened? Like, why are you in this situation? So really quickly, when I asked her what happened, why is she in this situation? Is that a question about the house or a question about her and her family? Which is it? Question about the house or her and her family? About her. Now, the thing about me is I know how to ask it in a way where she didn't feel like I was being nosy. Like if you ask it the wrong way, people are like, why do you care? It's none of your business, right? If you ask it wrong, you get in trouble. Well, I knew how to ask it right. I said, wow. I said, okay, gotcha. Well, do you mind if I ask? What happened? How'd you get here? My tone, my style got her to say, well, my daughter got sick and she went to the hospital. I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I hope she's better. Her answer was, no, she died. Like I did not expect that. I felt horrible. I said, I am so sorry to hear that. And I say, so I'm assuming it was the hospital bills that got you behind. Was that fair? She said, yeah, that's it. I said, okay. How many more hospital bills do you have? Oh, they're paid off. No hospital bills. She said, yeah, we paid them all. I said, oh, okay. I said, I hope this isn't nosy, but I mean, do you have any car bills? Any car bills? No, our cars are paid off. Okay, credit card bills? No. I'm like, so wait a minute. You're only behind on your house. Yes. How much? 1 month. How about a job? She says, yeah, we still have a job. I said, you make enough to pay your bills? Yeah, we have an extra $1,000 a month. Okay, now again, the way I got her relaxed and talking is part of the secret of my success. And now as she's talking, do you guys think she needs to sell me her house? No. So I'm not the crappy, sales guy. I'm like, I just told her, I said, ma'am, I said, look, in the future, I hope you never have anybody who gets sick again, but hospitals will take payments, right? So you can stay current on your house. If you just call the bank, tell them your situation, they will let you make up your payment in the future. They will totally understand. You'll have no problem. She said, really? I said, yes. She was giddy with excitement, got off the phone and went and solved the problem. Okay. So what I'm telling you is one of the reasons a lot of us don't succeed is we're not good at this phone call. We don't understand sales. We don't know how to do it in a way where we feel comfortable and they feel comfortable. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm good with rejection? Yeah, Elliot, high-end remodels is very different. Okay. I am not good with rejection. Let me tell you that right now. I am not good with rejection. I cry when people reject me. Okay. Here's what's interesting. I presented for decades. In making this, preparing for this, I honestly was almost threw up this morning, which is weird. Why? Because this is my program. I'm sharing my stuff. And I told my wife, I said, they can reject me. They can tell me it's crap. They can tell me it's horrible. I am not immune to rejection. What I've learned to do is talk to people in ways that I rarely get rejected. Like if I say, hey, I need to go, like, hey, thanks for your time. Or if I make my offer, like, Ammon, thank you so much for that, but that's not going to work for us. I'm like, thank you so much. You have a great day. It's generally very, very polite and pleasant. So that's how I get along with it. So again, this is the training. All right. I've spent a lot of time on that. And I know in a way I've been beating a dead horse, but I cannot overestimate at all the power of these phone calls. And Elliot, you made a very interesting comment. You said, Ammon, I'm in high-end sales, okay, or I did high-end repairs. When you're doing this whole process right here, okay, this is again psychology, right? This is psychology. When I'm doing this whole process, let's say I'm in a poor neighborhood. How do I need to think? I'm in a neighborhood where they're barely getting by. They can barely scrape by and pay their bills. How do I need to think? This is important. I need to think like a poor person, right? So for example, let's say that I'm trying to fix up the house, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, this siding is just so gross. I've got to redo this siding. Okay, that's my feeling because I live in a nicer neighborhood. But as I'm looking at the siding, I realize, hey, it's good enough that if I paint it, that's what they can afford. What do I do? Do I replace the siding or do I paint it? What do I do? This is so important. You paint it. Okay, you paint it. What if I'm in a luxury neighborhood? Right? I'm in a luxury neighborhood, and there I am. I'm in this whole luxury neighborhood. How do I need to be thinking? I need to be thinking high end, custom. I'll share a story now, and Elliot, for what your questions are just helping me give some good examples here. I'll share an example of a situation where a guy was he was in Salt Lake City, Utah. There were not a lot of depressed markets in Salt Lake City, Utah. A lot of houses were in really good shape. So I'm teaching him this process. Like, Ammon, there are no motivated leads. They just don't exist. So I popped on Zillow with him for just a second, and I found this house. Okay, it's in the bench of Salt Lake, which is very expensive now. It's by the hospitals. It's by the University of Utah. It's a very expensive situation. So I find this lead out there, and it's a very beautiful home. It has a great view out over the Utah Valley. You can see the Wasatch Mountains are just beautiful. The house is in really good shape. It's really livable. And I said, this right here is a great, great lead for you. And he's like, what are you smoking? He's like, you got to be on dope, dude. I'm like, I've never smoked in my life. I haven't even drank. Right? I'm slick Willie here. Nothing. Right? So he says, well, what are you talking about? Well, here's the thing. Beautiful house, really big house. If you walked into it, and this is like, I don't know, 2021 or something, right? Okay. If you walked into it, it had oak cabinets. Talk to me about oak cabinets in 2021. Are those modern? Are those old? What are they? Okay. Now remember, hey, take care, Stacy. God bless you. Okay. They're old cabinets, right? So they're very old cabinets. Now, if you're up on the bench and you're in Salt Lake and this house would normally sell for $1.2 million, are those oak cabinets okay? Can you live with them, or are they a problem? They're not okay. Okay. Why? Because when CEO 1 invites CEO 2 over to his house, and the wife of CEO 2 sees the oak cabinet, suddenly the wife of CEO 1 loses face and it's all over. Oh my gosh, I can't handle this. This is crazy. The oak cabinets have got to go. So here I'm talking to this guy. He says, well, I don't have any motivated sellers. I said, my man, this house is beautiful, but it's so outdated that nobody's going to buy it. So what you got to do is you got to go rip out those cabinets. But Ammon, they're beautiful. I know they're beautiful. You got to rip out that flooring. Ammon's beautiful. I know it's beautiful, but you don't understand. For them, it's a piece of trash. You've got to rip it out. And I said, I know they're the ones that are probably trying to save the environment, but you still got to rip out all this great stuff. You got to throw it in the landfill, and you got to put new luxury stuff in there. That's what you got to do, right? Yes, I know. And they'll talk about carbon emissions tomorrow when they're voting. I get it. But that's how it works, my man. He's like, really? I said, yes. So again, this whole process requires that you think in ways that you haven't thought before, in worlds you don't live in. I am a country bumpkin, you guys. That's how I've lived. That's how I love to live. I could live in a tent on a hiking trail for the rest of my life. I would be happy. I would be very happy. Luxury homes drive me nuts. To me, there are a lot of wasted time and space and energy. Now, a cabin in the woods, I could waste a lot of space on that with kayaks and bikes. So I have to think like other people, or I don't find deals. Okay. Now, really quickly, let's talk about finding buyers and sellers. Is everybody good at finding buyers and sellers? Is everybody good at finding? I mean, do you know how to find them? Or would you guys like me to find you some buyers and sellers in step 1 right now? Because we can do it right now. You guys want to find some buyers and sellers? Okay, let's do it right now. Okay, let's go. All right. So really quickly, somebody tell me where you live. Give me a city and state. Boise. Okay. We're going to go to Craigslist. Now, what's so amazing about what I do is it's so not sexy. It's really just hard work. So I know this sounds dumb, right? And I know people are like, Ammon, it doesn't work this way, but it does work this way. So we're going to go to real estate for sale. Oh, wait, no, I want to go to Boise first. I'm sorry. Let's go to the state. Let's go to Boise or Idaho. Let's go to Boise. Let's go to real estate for sale. Okay. All right. So mobile home with extra lot by the river. Okay. Updated Caldwell home, detached garage, pay it. Now, this may seem silly, but look at this. I literally just got a bunch of leads. Now, there aren't a lot of them in there, but I just got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 leads. If I get 12 leads times 7, that's almost 100 leads per week. Now, are any of these going to be very good? Talk to me for a minute. Are these good leads or are these crappy leads? Like, let's be really honest. Are they good or are they crappy? Use whatever words you want to use. Say crappy. Right now, just say they're horrible leads. Everybody say it. They're horrible, crappy. Ammon, you're showing us crappy leads. What kind of a trainer are you? Okay. You guys are all like really sophisticated. Like, Ammon, we're a little better than you. We're not country. We're not going to say crappy because that's a country word. Okay. So just like up your vocabulary. Okay. Guys, these are not very good leads. However, how quickly can I process those 12 leads? How quickly? Mobile home buyer with an extra lot. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know a lot about the pricing in Boise, so I can open this up really quickly. And that's the mobile home. Looks fairly decent. Has a vinyl skirting, not a brick one. Beautiful park model, fully furnished, huge additional and extra lot with full hookups. Almost our riverfront property on Payette Cascade River, like a leisure time park. Okay, am I seeing motivation or no motivation? What do I think? Motivation or no? I'm not seeing the motivation. So I might now if I'm new to Idaho, I'm gonna actually just get to know it. I'm like, okay, all right, interesting. So that river, oh look at that deer. That's a great picture. Whoever's selling this thing's doing a good job. Okay, look at that. They got the deer in there, they got the river in there. These guys are really good. Like they're getting me, like I haven't seen the inside of the house. I don't care. I've seen the river. Ammon's probably gonna buy it. They got me emotional. All right, so there's the house. Sweet. Obviously not motivated. Now, if I'm new to Boise, I just learned a little bit about their pricing. I learned a little bit about the value of the river, and I learned a little bit, but I'm done with that lead. If I wasn't talking to you, how long would it have taken me to process that lead? How long would it have taken? We're talking like 15 seconds. Like I literally would have been mobile home lot with extra buyer. Now, if I knew Idaho, I'd have been done because I would have looked at the price and been like, okay, I'm done. But updated Caldwell home detached garage. Okay, let's look at this updated thing. Okay, modern updated home with mid-century charm and character. Okay, motivated or not? Not motivated. But here's the secret. As I look at it, is this a flipper or is this a regular homeowner that owns it? Flipper or homeowner? Somebody said a flipper. I'm going to guess owner because you see that hose out there. I think that's an owner who would leave a hose like that. I know it's nice and clean, but you see that sponge in the sink? That's more of an owner sponge. The decorations around, I think that's more of a homeowner decoration. It's nicely done. Now, see that laundry basket? Like I'm pointing with my finger, but you guys can't see it, right? So in other words, it's nice, but I think it's an owner. So I'm probably not going to call them to see if they would buy deals for me. This is not a wholesale buyer, but it's somebody who has a nice home. It was probably flipped when they bought it. So I'm going to guess that it's probably not a flipper. So that's not a buyer for me. Again, I could have done that in 5 seconds. All right, pay at acreage near river with shop and updated home. Okay, so another updated home, but it's by the river. Okay, again, not motivated, but the updated here. Freshly painted and carpeted with detached garage, separate, move-in ready. Home includes additional manufactured home for storage attached. Okay, is this a flipper or is this a homeowner? This one's harder for me to tell. What do you guys think? This one might be a flipper because it says freshly painted and carpeted. Now they didn't redo the countertops. Oh, hey, look, there's a turkey. They're really getting me. I could totally move in this house too because it's got turkeys in a river. They know how to talk to my heart. All right, let's go here. Right, they didn't replace the countertops. They didn't paint them. There's no new appliances, so it's probably an owner. But look, it's the same Mike Barth dude, right? I think the last one was Mike Barth, wasn't it? Is it Mike Barth? Yeah. So guys, if Mike Barth has these updated homes, you think it'd be worth calling Mike Barth and have a conversation? What do you think? Is Mike going to get a call from Ammon? Yes, Mike is going to get a call from Ammon. Hey, Ammon, or hey, Mark, right? Mike, what is it, Mark or Mike? Hey, Mike, this is Ammon. I see you have a couple updated homes. By chance, are you an investor or do you work with investors? Oh, you do? Okay, gotcha. What's going on with the market here? Okay, you got any good title companies? All right. I'm looking for a flip. Do you already have them all going to your guys or do you need room for another investor? Oh, you already have them going to your guys. Great. Hey, thanks. Good to talk to you. God bless. Have a great day. I'm making the phone call. Guess what? Does Mike sometimes have a flip that just came up that nobody else wants? Does that happen sometimes? Yes, it happens. Happens all the time, right? Now, he may not, but it happens all the time. I don't know if I don't ask. How long does the phone call take me? 5 minutes. It's that fast. Okay? It's that quick. All right? Now I can scan, 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 scan. Look at that, remodeled home. Okay, remodeled. This home is for sale only, not for rent. I will not finance you. Financing is available at your local bank. Please don't waste mutual precious time. It says remodeled. Okay, now I thought this was going to be a flipper. Okay, I thought this was going to be a flipper. And so what I do with the flippers is I call them and say, hey, do you ever wholesale any of your deals? And what I do is I set up there, somebody's going to send me deals. Do you ever wholesale any of your deals? Okay, well, do you ever buy deals? So notice as I'm calling realtors and wholesalers, what's happening to my lead creation? Is it going up or down? It's going up. Thank you. Yes, Lynn, thank you. It's going up. That's why I'm making phone calls. Everyone's like, yeah, but Ammon, you're going to call the agents. They're not going to send you anything. That's right. In my line of business, I have to do a lot of work to get one deal. It's like fishing. How many times do you have to cast your pole before you catch one fish? Do I get to fish with every cast? No. And there are some days where I cast hundreds of times and don't catch a single fish. Investing's like fishing. If you don't love the casting, get out of the business. Okay. So look at this. Now here's what's interesting. Look at this guy right here. This guy's really interesting, right? A lot to love about my home. It's both remote and centrally located. The thing is, this guy may not know what it's actually worth. He may be underpricing it. Okay. He's very proud of what he's done, but I'm just going to call him up and I'm going to say, hey, I'm impressed. I mean, that's super cool. You've done a lot of work in your home. That's really cool. You know, can I ask a question? I'm probably not your right buyer, but I'm just curious. How'd you come up with your asking price? Why am I going to ask him that? Why am I going to ask him that? How'd you come up with your asking price? I am curious, but why else? I can learn the area. Why else? Do homeowners, does he seem like he's kind of a strict dude? Or does he seem like he's a chill, relaxed dude? What do you think? Strict dude or chill, relaxed dude? Pretty strict dude, type A. That's what he seems like to me too. Well, maybe, just maybe, he mispriced it. Okay, I'm just going to say, hey, dude, that's super cool. Now it's in a park. It's probably not mispriced. It's probably priced, effectively, right? But you know what? Maybe he's so strict he won't call an agent. Maybe this thing's really worth 190. And I call him and say, hey, talk to me about your situation a little bit. How'd you come up with the price? Oh, I ran comps, this, and that. I'm like, all right, I'm probably not your right buyer, but I'll let people know about it. What if he says, you know what? That's what I'm into it. Right? I've worked really hard. That's what I'm into it. I'm not lowering the price. What do you think? Is that a sign that maybe there's some spread there? Yeah. So the point is, I'm going to pick up the phone a lot. Right there are leads, even though those don't turn into a lot of good deals. There's leads and there's connections for buyers in those calls. Guys, is this helpful or is this stupid? Be honest with me. I'm not seeking kudos. Is this helpful or not? Okay, good. Good. This is literally what I do. Okay. This is literally what I do. I'm not making this up. I was with a company once and they taught a lot of people what they did, they've got all these marketing campaigns out there. Guess what they did? Yeah, they had the team of 4 or 5 guys that came into the office. They got a list of all of the MLS listings every day, and they got on the phone and started calling all the MLS listings. That was their job. That's how they got 90% of their deals. They didn't do it through all the marketing. They said the guys got on the phone, started calling and talking to sellers, chit-chatting, turning over rocks. That's how they got deals. Ben, I love your comment. You guys see what Ben just said? I need to be more curious. Okay, I cannot overemphasize this. All right, so let's go back to the slides. All right, so let's find some buyers and sellers. Again, did I find a deal? No, but that's exactly how I find them. Let's see. All right, so I find them on Zillow. I've told this story before. Some of you have heard this, but I was working with a student in Colorado, and they were saying, Ammon, I need to find a deal. So it was in Colorado Springs. And so they said, how do you find deals? I said, I literally find them on Zillow. This happened literally like 2.5 months ago. And I said, all right, let's go check this out. So I said, let's look at manufactured homes. I love those. I do a lot of those flips. We went outside of town. Sure enough, there was this manufactured home. And they were selling, had a full basement, which is really rare. And I was like, dude, that's a deal. Like right there. It's right there. I said, you better call on that. Now, the guy was too scared. He didn't call on it and he lost the deal. But that was an $80,000 profit right on Zillow, right near Colorado Springs 2 months ago. So I'm not sharing secrets because it's not about secrets. It's about skills. All right. Now, I don't know why that slide is light there. when it comes to your marketing, a lot of times we get trained to do lots of direct mail, lots of billboards, lots of bandit signs, lots of ads, all that kind of stuff. But then we have these free leads. What I'm talking to you about right now, this one you can't see for some reason, right? We're talking about calling Craigslist, calling Zillow, calling the MLS, talking to agents, talking to other investors. How about those leads? That's where you learn how to talk with people. That's how you learn to turn over rocks and see opportunities. And we don't get to train in this today very much. But how much do you think market knowledge leads to you finding a good deal or not a good deal? Roxanne says, what would a realistic goal be to set a time to do leads? I do work a W-2 job. So Roxanne, when you're brand new, a lot of your time is learning. But let's just say you're working a W-2 job and you're like, yeah, and I've learned how to do all the basics and things like that. I would hope you should be able to sit down and call through leads 3 or 4 hours a week, right? Now, again, you're only doing 1 to 3 deals per year. Remember that. I'm not trying to get you to do 10 per year. Is 1 to 3 hours a week enough to do 10 deals a year? Not even close. Is 1 to 4 hours a week enough to do 1 to 3 deals per year? Absolutely. Especially because here's what's going to happen. Esther, you're going to get good at making these phone calls. You're going to be doing lots of phone calls. Suddenly you're going to realize, I'm good at this. I'm great at this. Okay, now we can start spending money on this kind of stuff. Now we can send direct mail pieces to things like probates and pre-foreclosures. Is direct mail cheap or is it expensive? Thank you, Trudy. Okay, Roxanne, 3 to 4 is good. I'm going to do 3 to 5. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I know, Tanya. This one right here, I'm sorry. I don't know why it's so light. I don't know what happened to it. Yeah, direct mail is expensive. So why are we going to start out doing direct mail when we don't have the verbal skills to actually cash in on the deals? I've had people say, Ammon, I just spent like $1,000 on these leads and I didn't find a single deal. It's like, so you didn't get a phone call? No, I had like 7 or 8 phone calls. Well, did they not find a deal or did they not know how to handle the phone call? What do you think? Did they not find a deal or did they not know how to handle do a phone call? Nikki says, I'm going to guess that consistency is very important. Eventually seeking deals will start to be productive. Yes. Yes. And guys, I'm gonna wrap up. I'm showing you what we do, and then I'm gonna show you how to learn this. So please know that's coming. I'm showing you what we do and giving you some of the ideas, and then I'm gonna show you how you master this stuff. That's gonna help. So remember, that's coming. It's coming up. So the idea is this: make a lot of phone calls on free leads, learn how to talk to people, learn to get them to open up, learn to get them to relax. Then you can start spending money on your marketing. Then you can start spending money, on more expensive things. Okay. I'm not even going to talk about a website. Now, the desktop approval or appraisal, I talked about this in earnest. I said, this is about speed. You're not trying to get perfect numbers. Okay. It's speed. You're trying to find their motivation. Why? Because you're trying to make the phone call. You're trying to make the phone call. That's the point. Quick set of phone numbers, boom, or quick set of numbers on the phone call. If they're motivated, we do a desktop appraisal. Okay. If they're motivated, we do a desktop appraisal. Okay. Or I'm sorry. This is about speed. We're going to do a desktop appraisal, whether they're motivated or not. We do a quick, no, I'm going too fast for my own self. We don't always call everybody. Like if I get on Craigslist and I see leads that don't seem like they're a good agent or a good investor, do I call every lead on Craigslist? What do you guys think? Do I call every lead on Facebook Marketplace? Do I call every lead on Zillow? No. There either needs to be an agent or a seller that I can learn something from or maybe get a deal from for me to call, or potentially where it might be a real deal. Those I get phone calls on, okay? So I'm doing my desktop appraisal only on leads that seem to have some kind of like motivation or some reason to call them. If they don't, I'm done, gone. I can get rid of most leads within 2 to 3 seconds. Gone. That's why I can go through hundreds of leads a week. Then I'm going to pick a small number to do a desktop appraisal on. If there's 100 leads on Craigslist, how many desktop appraisals do you think I'll do on 100 leads on Craigslist? Get 100 leads. Yeah, I'm going to do, 2 to 10. Right? I get 100 leads. I'm like, nope. I run a quick, maybe 5-minute run on 2 to 10 of those leads. Of those 2 to 10 leads, I'm probably going to call 4 or 5 or 6 of them, and then I'll move on to onto Facebook Marketplace or somewhere else. Okay, but that's how fast I am. If I'm doing 2 seconds times 100 leads, that's 200 seconds. We're like at what, 4 minutes? And then of course I take 10 leads to take 2 or 3 minutes on. That means in 30 minutes I can process 100 leads. Is this opening any doors for anybody? Is this opening any realization for you? The reason I always have deals is because I'm always turning over rocks, and I know how to turn over rocks at a breakneck speed. I actually enjoy turning over rocks too, right? It's not hard for me because I have fun. I love the hunt. Okay. So if the desktop appraisal goes through, sweet. Again, it's about speed, not accuracy, motivation, not numbers. That's the point. Well, there's lots of ways to see motivation. Let me ask you, do you suppose it's easy to recognize motivation, or does it take time and practice to recognize it? What do you think, Lori? What do you think, Evelyn? It takes time, you guys. It takes time. When I'm dealing with new investors, guess what? When I'm dealing with new investors, a lot of times they say, Ammon, there's so much motivation here. I'm like, I'm sorry, I love you. There is not any motivation here. Then I'll find another property. Say, is there motivation there? Yeah, it's a bad neighborhood. I'm like, so what? There's big motivation. Or yeah, there's a bad tenant. I'm like, so what? There's big motivation. Or they're like, I don't like the area. I don't care. There's big motivation. Or maybe there's big motivation, but they're like, well, it has a mold problem. Yeah, that's why they have big motivation. Well, it's got a foundation issue. Yeah, that's why they have big motivation. And so the reality is we've got to go out there and find the big motivation. Well, when you're new, a lot of times you're chasing the wrong leads and you're avoiding the wrong leads. It takes practice, Carlos. It takes practice, Barbara, to get there. So you've got to see that motivation. All right. Now, again, we've talked about step one. We've talked about the desktop appraisal. If it passes the desktop appraisal, boom, we're going to move into the field appraisal, where all we're going to do is repeat the second step, but now we're going to do it better. Now, Tina, hello. I haven't said hi to you yet. We're going to go do the second step, but we're going to do it more aggressively. We're going to get better numbers. But what we're going to do is we're going to go do it better, and then we're going to negotiate with the seller. Again, remember, we're still focusing on the seller, not the house. We're trying to understand their problems, their issues, Moses. How can we help them? If they don't have a problem, do I have a deal? No. Is it easy to get sellers to open up or sellers agents to open up? No, it's not. It's not easy to do that, but that's what you've got to do, because when you understand their problem, off you go. All right. Now, the field appraisal, here's what happens. Let's say we make an offer. This is another big moment you all need to really, really take focus, right? So if you're playing solitaire or you're playing Tetris, eyeballs on this one. Okay. This is very, very important. If you've done this process properly and they reject your offer, okay, do you hate them and do they hate you if you've done this process properly? They do not hate you and you do not hate them, okay? What happens if you're just lowballing everybody? When they say no, do they hate you? You didn't ask them any questions. You don't know them at all. You just threw out a lowball offer. Do they hate you? Yes, they hate you. Esther's very nice. I don't think Esther hates anybody, okay? Yeah, hate's a strong word. Tone it down for me. I tend to have fun with my words, right? They're not happy. They're upset, right? So if I'm out there lowballing, it's hard to follow up. But if I talk to them, got them to open up, I understand their situation, and I made an offer and they feel respected, right? Can I call them back in 4 to 6 weeks and make my offer again? Nikki said it beautiful. We thank them, right? Now, again, we're talking about us making offers. If we've done it right, we can call back and we can make an offer in 4 to 6 weeks. You know, they say no to our offer, like, hey, I appreciate you considering my offer. Thank you so much. You know what? I'll follow up in 4 or 5, 6 weeks. They say, sure, great. So 4 or 5 weeks, I call them back. Hey, how's it going? Have you sold the house? They say, no, I'm sorry to hear that. And I mean it, right? Well, could we still consider my offer? Oh, not yet. I got it. I understand. I respect it. I hope you get what you're asking. I call them 4 to 6 weeks. Guys, how often do you get a lead on the 3rd or 4th time you followed up on it? You get a deal. What do you guys think? How often? David, Amy, beautifully said. Yep, Tal, well done. I don't know exactly the number, but I would say it's easily, depending on what kind of leads you're working, I would say 30 to 60% of the time you get the deal on the 3rd or 4th time you make an offer. That's common. Depends on what leads you're working. So if you're not following up, you're not finding deals. Well, I shouldn't say you are, but you're not finding them very, very regularly. Okay. All right. Everybody catch that? It's very important. All right. So again, in this, our numbers are better. They're still not perfect. Roxanne, this one's for you, right? Remember, trust your inspection clause, right? Victoria, don't hesitate. Don't do tons of research. You know how many times I've lost a deal because I found a good one and was too scared to write the offer, and then the next day another investor got it? Yeah, it's been dozens of times in my life. If you add up the cost, it's cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars because I was afraid to write that offer. Write your offers effectively, okay? And go for it. Perfect. So again, we just got our field appraisal done. Okay. Step 4, this is where we're going to do our due diligence. This is where we're doing perfect numbers. We're going to do our physical due diligence, our legal due diligence, and our market due diligence. We do 3 types of due diligence. Okay. Physical, legal, and market. This is where our numbers are going to get really good. Okay. Again, I don't know why my slide is misbehaving right here. So this is where we're going to get contractors to do the physical. We're going to have a title company do legal stuff, and we're going to do ARV and rents on our market stuff. Linda says, what if there's no inspection clause on the contract? Don't sign it. Linda, I've been doing real estate a long time. Do I sometimes make offers without an inspection clause? Do you guys think I do that sometimes? I just say, yeah, I'll do it. No, yeah, I do. Do I make offers $10,000, no inspection contingency? So meaning if I back out, I lose the 10 grand. Do I do that? You bet I do. Okay. Absolutely I do. Okay. Do I do it very often? Not very often. It has to be the right scenario. Are you guys in a position where you should do it a lot right now? Or should you maybe wait a bit till you have a little bit of experience to make those kinds of offers? Okay. Yeah. So I've been driving this car a long time. I can make aggressive offers, which is another reason why I get more deals. Yeah, Maricar, exactly. So the point being, what I'm telling you is if you don't feel comfortable writing an offer without an inspection, don't do it. Now, I had a deal here, about a year ago. It turned out to be a good deal, but it was in a floodplain. It had some issues, and they wanted $5,000 earnest money with no inspection clause. But I didn't feel comfortable. I wanted to do some research first. Did I go ahead and sign that contract and give them my 5 grand? I was like, there's some problems here. I need to research. Should I give them my money? I didn't, and I lost the deal because of it. Like it took a couple weeks to really get with the city and to find out what was going on with the situation. And I found out, that's it. I put my offer in literally an hour after another investor took it. And it turned up being a really good profit. But guys, that's fine by me. I didn't feel bad about it. I follow my processes and do it the right way. So there are situations where I make an offer with a lot of earnest money with no inspections. But if I'm at all nervous, I keep my inspections too. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, does that make sense? Ben says, what percentage of contracts you back out on? I probably back out of 40% of my contracts. Yeah, Ben's like, at some point, because this be bad business. Ben, not if you manage your relationships properly. It can be okay. They know what I'm doing and why I do it, and I communicate up front what I'm about. If I mislead people and I surprise them, you're right. They get mad at me. When I'm upfront and clear about what I'm doing, no, I can back out and not hurt my business. I missed what tools used for a deal check in step 2. Oh, no worries, Chris. So what I'll do, there will be a replay, but I'll just throw this up for you real quick, take a screenshot, and then we'll get going here. You can screenshot that real quick. There will be a replay, so you can go back in and catch that. Okay. All right, there you go. All right, so let's keep going here. Okay, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on wholesaling because today's isn't about wholesaling. I just want you to know in step 4, that's where you're going to assign the contract. You're going to do your due diligence, back out if you need to, move forward if you need to. Okay. And then step 5 is where we would either close on the property, renegotiate it, or back out of it. And we could also do a double close. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions about this particular set of steps? Again, remember, you're not going to learn it in steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. You're not going to learn it in that order. But when you're a professional investor, that's the order in which you're going to take it. Okay. All right. What have you learned, you guys? Give me some more really quickly. Process what you just went through. Now, as you're processing and asking me questions, here's what I want you to understand. I taught you that because I wanted to correct some misunderstandings. I wanted to point out that you guys have some things you've got to do, and that is you've got to learn to run very quick numbers. You've got to learn how to fill out contracts. You've got to not be afraid of picking up the phone, right? All of this has to happen what? Before or after you start marketing? Yeah, Linda, soft skills are important. Exactly. I love that. Practice, practice, practice. I love it, Donna. Does this happen before or after you start marketing? You learn this stuff before or after? Practice analyzing, estimating. You do it before. Okay, develop the right skills. You guys got it. Okay. Is this shifting the way you look at it? Ben says, be more curious. Focus on the motivation. Love it. Don't get hung up on estimations. Good. Okay. All right. Now, again, you guys are getting this. We still have to talk about how to learn it. But before we talk about how you learn it, because there are some very clear steps that will help you do this, there's one more thing we need to talk about when it comes to the process, right, of how a successful investor operates, right? Because remember, they're trying to create active income to create extra money, and they're doing that by flipping and wholesaling properties in what I just shared. And when they're done with that, they've got to put it into passive income, right? Tanya says this is helping. Good. Excellent. That's what I want to hear. So we want to talk about passive income a little bit, and then we can wrap up that section. And I think we're doing just fine here. I think we're doing good. Okay. So we're going to go through the rest of this really quickly. Let's take a quick 5-minute bathroom break, grab some water, stretch, let your mind rest. Then we're going to talk about passive income, and then how you learn it should go very, very quickly. The big bulk is behind us. We're doing great. You guys are doing awesome. You're holding really, really well. So let's go grab a bathroom break. Back in 5. I've got 12:52 on my phone. So I will be back in just a couple minutes. We'll start at 12:57 Pacific time. All right. Talk to you in a second. Okay, Chris says, yeah, in that couple of yeah, thank you. Maricar, yes, we'll get you a copy of this training. Yes, we will. Yeah, and Chris says, I've been using a piece of software called dealcheck.io. Does a decent job crunching some quick numbers for a rough look at property. You know, Chris, I I'm an AI skeptic. I'll be really honest with you. I really, really am. It's I found it has so many different errors and so many different problems with it that I don't trust it. And so generally speaking, I put my eyes on the comps to do my quick comparables. But for your sloppy set of numbers, it's not a Chris says it doesn't use AI. What does it use to calculate? Marakar, take care, my friend. Take care. God bless you. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate it. Okay. And that's okay. I generally like Zillow has what's called a Zestimate. I don't like to use that very much. Other places have like a wholesale number, like they generate this algorithm that pumps it out. But the idea is, you've got a system for doing a rough look. I love that. That's good. I mean, it's good to have that. So, all right. Okay, guys, are we ready? Ready to rock and roll? Should we hit this cash flow and then talk about how you're going to actually learn this stuff? Oh, okay, gotcha. Oh, so it's a nice Excel sheet. Oh, okay, cool. That has a bunch of equations to calculate things like ARV and rough cash flow. Okay, good. So it's like a deal analyzer kind of spreadsheet. Good. That's cool. Okay, gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah, those are so useful. That's cool, Chris. Well done. Well done. Smart move. All right, so let's talk about passive income. This is really important. Again, to make sure you've got the big plan, that you understand how this goes, right? Because what's the first piston in our engine? What's the first piston, Tina? What's the first piston, Stephen? Active income. Perfect. Okay. What's the second piston? Passive. Okay. I literally just showed you how we find active deals. And just so you know, you use what we just talked about, those 6 steps. I don't care if you're doing commercial or if you're trying to flip mobile homes or raw land or whatever, it's generally the same process of steps. Okay. So now when we talk about passive income, there are some things you need to understand so you make key decisions. Now, I'm going to do this very, very quickly. So please pick up the concepts. We're not going super deep. I just need you to pick up the concepts. Excellent. So we just want you to pick up the concepts. I don't want you to understand it fully perfectly. Okay, Sue? All right. So passive income. Okay. Where does cash flow fit in? Well, the fact of the matter is everybody wants cash flow. Like, I want cash flow so I can retire. And yet the problem is nobody understands it, so they buy it wrong. Most people will own rentals literally for just a few years and they get rid of them. There's 2 reasons people get rid of cash flowing properties. Number 1, they can't stand the people, right? They really can't. They want to punch their tenants. If you want to punch your tenants, you've got a problem. Okay? If you want to punch your tenants, you've got an issue. So you can't be upset. You've got to be able to deal with your tenants regularly. Or number 2, and this is a big one as well, they do their numbers improperly. Okay, they do their numbers improperly. So they think they're getting a good deal when in fact they aren't. Let's talk about that second one in detail. We're not going to talk about the management part today, but we are going to talk about the bad numbers so you can understand them. Okay, first of all, I'm going to quiz you all. Okay, how many profit centers are there in a rental property? If you buy like a cash flowing, I don't care if it's a 10 unit or a 100 unit or a 1 unit, what are the profit centers in a rental? You guys tell me real quick. Ben says 4. Good. Can you name the profit centers? Like 4 ways you make money with a rental. Good. Teresa's rent. And she said depreciation. She got 2 of them. Depreciation is tax savings. Good. Can anybody think of the others? All right. This is a slide you do want to memorize. Okay. Here we go. Number 1 is the cash flow itself. This is the rent. Okay. Oh, there you go. Stephen got one. This is the rent. Okay. The appreciation. What is appreciation, you guys? What is appreciation? What is it? You're good, Chris. I put it up and then I took it away. Yeah, so it's the market going up, right? So it's kind of inflationary kind of stuff, right? Values going up over time, appreciation, okay? What's principal pay down? You're good, Tina. Be safe. Be safe as you drive. I'm glad you're here. What's principal pay down? What's principal pay down? Yeah, if I have a mortgage, that's exactly right. Let's say I have a mortgage and I owe, like, I have a bunch of units where I bought several a few years ago where I had 150,000 debt on each one. Well, now that I've been paying on the mortgage, or my tenants have been for a while, how much do I now owe on it? Like 132. Yeah, so as I owe less money, I make more money. And then of course, tax savings is where I get to depreciate the building over a certain amount of years. Okay, now I don't need you to understand all of these really well. I just need you to understand that there are 4 profit centers. Okay, how many of you are surprised by the fact that cash flow is not the only profit center? Anybody surprised by that? Like, or maybe not surprised, but you're like, you know what? I never thought of that. I knew it, but I never thought about it. Anybody thought about that? Okay. This is important. You need to think about that. Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. if you look at the average rental, I'm not going to do a lot of explaining. A lot of times the cash flow is only 3 to 6% of your down rate return on investment. Your appreciation is often more like 10 to 15% return on your investment. Your principal pay down will often be anywhere from 2 to 5%, and your tax savings only 1 to 2%. So if you look at the money you earn on a rental, which is normally your biggest, what makes you the most money? Cash flow, appreciation, principal pay down, or tax savings? Laura, you got it. It's the appreciation, you guys. The appreciation is generally the greater moneymaker when you're buying a rental. A lot of people don't know that. So what they'll do, Moses, is they'll go out there and they'll buy a property thinking they're going to make a ton of money in cash flow, just to find out their cash flow often pretty much comes close to break even. So when you buy a rental, that's why I'm saying is if you get a loan on it, right? If you get a loan, a fairly large loan, and let's say this really quickly. If you owe 80% or more on a property, that's the numbers you get. Okay. If you own 80% or more, the cash flow is close to zero, so you make a lot more on appreciation. That's why it's hard to buy 5 or 6 or 7 rentals when you first start investing and live on it, because you're making a lot of money in the appreciation, you're making a lot of money in the principal pay down, but your cash flow is so minimal that you own 6 rentals and you're barely pulling in $700 or $800 a month that you can actually live on, because most of your money is made with the appreciation. Now, quick question. Let's say I pay a building off free and clear. I owe nothing on it. What happens to my cash flow? Does it go up or down? I paid it off. I owe nothing on it. What happens? Take care, Leslie. Take care. It's good to have you here. You're welcome. It goes up, right? Cash flow goes up, right? A lot. And so when you're finally retiring with cash flow, the idea is, okay, that your cash flow goes up because you're paying down the principal and you're getting ready to retire. However, when you first start buying passive, generally you're making money on appreciation, okay? All right, now this is an example of what happens in terms of cash flow, because this is what a lot of people don't understand. Okay, they don't get it. It's revenue minus expenses. Well, everybody gets that the revenue is rents, but here's what happens with expenses. Everybody looks at the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, and they stop looking. So let's say rents are $2,000 a month, and my PITI is $1,400 a month. How much cash flow would most people think that they have? If most average people who are analyzing look at that, how much cash flow do they think they have? Yeah, they think they've got $600 a month. Oh yeah, I make $600 a month on that. How much do you think they're really making? Like really, really, like you can go to the store and you go to the movies. What do you think? Okay, David, Amy, you're saying zero, minus 100, zero. Yeah, not much. Exactly. Because let's take management. Well, it's normally 10% of that, so that's minus $200, right? Now, a lot of people say, well, I manage it myself. I'm like, well, I love you, but your time is worth something. If you're managing it yourself, Donna, then you had better be paying yourself. Time isn't free, right, Jimmy? We got to get paid for it. Then I say, what about vacancies? Like, what do you mean? Well, we haven't had vacancies in a long time. Like, I know they're not very common right now, but you should be saving up for those moments when they are, right? Well, 5% is plenty right now. Okay, that's only $100, but I've got to subtract $100. Utilities. Well, a lot of times tenants pay their own utilities, all right? So we'll get rid of that one. We'll say none. These right here are the big ones. These are huge, okay? These are huge. Maintenance and repairs. When you buy a property, you should be putting a minimum of $25 a month towards each door. I don't care if the building's new or not, okay? But when you add, shoveling the sidewalks and mowing the grass, that's often higher than that, but a minimum of 25 per door. So if you own a duplex, how much is that a month for maintenance? $50, okay? Minimum. Okay, now I could explain a lot more, but I'm kind of moving through this quickly. I just want you to understand it, because this right here is the big issue. In today's market, just to paint and carpet your property every 5 years, guess how much you have to be putting away to paint and carpet your property every 5 years? Like every month to pay for that. Depends on the size of the unit and where it's at and the quality of the finishes, but guess how much? About $180 a month just to carpet and paint the thing. Okay, that's per unit. Okay, $180 a month. Isn't that crazy? Just to paint and carpet a place. That doesn't count for, if the roof goes out, or if the plumbing goes out, or if you have to change out a vanity or a toilet, or if you have a clogged toilet, none of that. So in most cases, you need to put 300 to 500 per month away to truly take care of your building over the long term of that building. How many people teach you that? How many people teach you that? Nobody teaches you that, okay? I'm one of the few people that I know that has owned rentals for more than 20 years, okay? There are very few people that I know that have owned them for as long as I have, okay? Yeah, it's killer. And so a lot of people, they're eating it, they're going to the movies and they're doing stuff and they're having a great time. And then suddenly they show up and they got to come up with $6 grand out of nowhere to pay for a furnace. Like, I can't afford this. Then they got to do a roof, 10 grand. I can't afford this. Well, not me, because I have these big old accounts up here that are adding up because I know the furnace is coming up. I know the roof is coming up. And so there you go. Legal, I put at least 25 bucks a month towards legal for evictions and things. Well, let's just add this up. 200, 300, let's do 400 or 700, 750. We thought we were making 600 a month, but when we take the 750 other, we're actually losing 150 in cash flow. Does everybody see that? Now, I did that very fast. So all I want you to understand, I'm not trying to teach you cash flow today. I just want you to understand that when you buy a rental, oftentimes you cannot count on the cash flow to take you in order. Now, it can pay for itself. If I buy a rental and it pays for itself, that's awesome. I like that because guess what? If it's paying for itself, it's like having a 401k that self-funds itself. I love it. And so if I own 10 401ks that are self-funding, is that a good thing? It's an awesome thing. It's great. So I love rentals. But you got to understand that if you're buying these with very like minimal equity, that it's going to take them 10 to 20 years to produce large returns. So cash flow without equity is a long-term play. Cash flow with equity, if I've got 2 million bucks, I just buy the building cash, that's a short-term play. Any questions on this? Okay. So conclusions, with rare exception, you cannot live on cash flow without equity. Rare exception. Focus on increasing your net worth if you want to retire early. This is huge. Until you have enough equity, your rentals will be better served growing your equity and not paying your bills. Is everybody good with this? Okay. All right. Chris says, in your experience, are the properties that cash flow a couple grand a month the first year rare? Chris, if you're running a business like an Airbnb or something like that, where you're more business than real estate, then you can get cash flow a year, but you're running an actual business. You're running a hospitality business. But what I just said is so important. Like, let's say I go buy a building, but I pay it off full, like I pay it off cash. Well, it'll cash flow a couple grand a month the first year. So it's a matter of how much equity you put down. If I put down 0 down payment, is it going to cash flow? Like, Chris, I will tell you, 0 down on any building, you're not going to get a couple grand a month. I mean, maybe if you buy a 100 unit building, maybe, but no, if you put 100% down, there are a lot of buildings that will cash flow. Problem is, if you go down and you do, most beginning investors are only putting 20% down on their rentals. 20% down in most markets is a negative cash flow right now. 3 years ago, it was break even because interest rates were low. But today, to break even in most rentals, in most states, you got to put 40% down. Linda says, what about new construction because it's low on maintenance? Yes, it is low on maintenance, Linda. The challenge is, depending on where you buy it, you got to pay a lot for the building. So there's a trade-off, But yeah, it's low on maintenance, and that does help. But if I had to pay 7% on another 150,000, it eats into my cash flow. So if we were to talk cash flow, guys, I would be talking to you about buying in different states. Like I buy in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I would be buying in Arkansas, Louisiana, Kentucky. Those states in the South, because there's still cash flow there, is generally what I'd be doing, or I'd be doing some kind of commercial, right? Yeah. So a lot of you are asking different questions. Move to trade to another property. Yes, done that. Paying off notes. I pay some of them off. I don't pay off others. I pay off some. I don't pay off others. Depends on the situation. Okay. All right. So guys, let's do a quick review on this. Okay. We talked about a 2-piston engine. We talked about having active income and we talked about having passive income. We talked about both of those, right? Okay. Do you guys now understand in terms of your path? You understand the path to wealth. You've got to have a two-piston engine. You've got to have a strong active income, and then you've got to buy passive income effectively. All right. Now, again, this is so big picture. Like there's so many little details like notes and where do I buy and what do I buy and all those kinds of things. So many different things we can talk about. But let's just do a summary of this process really quickly. Okay. Number one, there's a lot of hype in this industry. Okay. The hype often gets you going in the wrong direction. Most of the hype means you're not doing very much active income because you're not doing that properly. And as we went over active income, I hope I corrected some of your thoughts and misconceptions so you now have a better idea on how to succeed at that level. Okay. It also requires that you understand how passive works. And hopefully by showing you that cash flow often doesn't work, that's also started to correct some of the ways you look at that and realize, okay, my real goal is to increase my net worth, right? So that means you're going to have a strong active income to get there. Okay. We talked about there's a specific process for getting deals. We talked about the 6-step process. We talked about how it requires a lot of phone work and that people misunderstand passive income. Now, part of this webinar was to find the reasons you're not succeeding and correct it. Am I accomplishing that with this summary? Are we doing that? Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. Okay, this won't take us long. What I'm going to give you right now, we should be able to do fairly quickly. But I'm going to explain to you what I have designed, and it's really not that ingenious, guys. I mean, it is genius, but it's not. It's just good old-fashioned learning. That's it. But the industry hasn't tried to do it. So right now I've got the monopoly, which right now I'm going to say I'm the best educator in the entire industry. I don't care who you have out there. I'm the best real estate educator. Why? Because I got a simple, straightforward process. First of all, what I'm going to do when I teach you how to, if you want to succeed at this, you need to recognize, Victoria, that you're not going to build a business and learn to do a single deal at the same time. If you're somebody who already knows how to do single deals, then you can move on to building a business. But for most people, they cannot consistently do single deals. They've done one or two, but they just can't keep finding more deals. Well, stop trying to build a massive business. Stop trying to build a big scaled business. Focus on learning to do a deal first. So that's the first genius of broccoli. We're focusing on this so you do 1 to 3 a year. How much work does it take off your plate to not be building a business? Like you're not learning websites and you're not hiring people and you're not doing all this other entity kind of stuff. It takes a lot off. Now, am I saying that's not important? Am I saying you should never do it? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, just make sure it comes at the right time, right? Okay, good. Yeah, Chris says I have a similar process. I see someone experienced to look at my numbers. Okay. And we'll talk about that in just a second too, Chris. I'll give you some ideas on that. But the idea here, and so again, at the end, we'll have additional questions. But that's the first thing is if you want to do well, clear out all the garbage and focus on the right things first, okay? So you're going to focus first on active income until you have extra, then you can focus on passive. So Donna says, does that mean you can continue to do business in your personal name? I will say this. For some of you, you have a net worth high enough, you should at least create one entity to do your deal. When I started in my early 20s, I did several deals in my own name. There are challenges with it, but that's how I did it my first little bit. But can you create a pretty basic local entity to protect most situations? Yes. So again, I'm not trying to get rid of all of that together. I'm trying to simplify it and say you don't have to do nearly as much as you think you do. Okay. So we're going to focus on mostly doing a single deal. We might get a little entity, might do a Facebook page, but we're not really going to go crazy with a lot of extra stuff. We're going to focus on the active piston. Okay. We're going to avoid complex strategies and advanced techniques. How many times do you buy a program from somebody and then 2 weeks later they have some big commercial thing or some Airbnb thing and they're selling you some new flashy strategy? Guys, do you want to chase strategies? Is that a good way to succeed? It's not, okay? So at Broccoli, I won't let you. You cannot go on to complex strategies until you've mastered what you need to master, okay? Now, realistic timelines. Thank you, Lynn. It's a distraction. This one right here, I really hesitated to put this one on there. I really did. Okay. I think a lot of people can do a deal in under a year. However, I want you and your brain to start saying, okay, am I going to do a deal next week? Probably not. Okay. Can you do a deal faster? Yes, I think you can. However, if you're not realistic about it, guess what happens? You spend a ton of money and then you work yourself to a frazzle in 3 months, you burn out, you're sick of it, you never do it again, you lost all that money. Right? Literally. That's what happens to 99% out there. That's why we talk about the failure rates. Put the right goals, put the right stretch. Guys, you can get wealthy, but it takes time to learn this stuff. Can you imagine trying to learn to build a house in 3 weeks? There's a lot to know. You can't do it. It takes time, just like you can't flip in just 3 weeks. That's why it's so amazing when the sales guys are like, hey, yeah, just buy this. And yeah, you'll do your first deal in the first couple of months and you'll pay it off. It does happen, but it's very, very rare. Okay. So again, remember, think military boot camp. Yes, the goal is to get the enemy, but we don't want to go get them until we've what? Gotten our rifle, gotten our camo, and trained. Then we can go get the enemy. So how do you learn this stuff? How do you get to a point where you can actually learn and survive? Well, there's 3 phases. It's very straightforward. Okay. Yeah, I love it. David and Amy, I was caught up in the building the business stuff and scared to move forward without everything in place. Yeah, it's so true. Now I'm going to start making phone calls and practicing filling out the deal letters. Awesome. Perfect. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. Look at these phases. I promise you, if the whole industry would just take this slide and copy it, we would solve a lot of the world's problems, right? What's phase 1, you guys? Phase 1, what is it? Just type it in there. Yeah, Nikki says unrealistic timelines are definitely pushed and believed by those who, yep, it's true. It's real estate basics. That's all it is. Real estate basics is phase 1. It's real estate basics, not even investor basics. Phase 2 is investor basics. Phase 3 is doing a deal. So notice there should be 2 substantial phases before you're ever trying to actually do a deal. If that's not happening, you're putting yourself up, setting yourself up for a lot of pain, misery, and failed attempts. Let's talk about what phase 1 is, okay? Phase 1 literally is where you learn to run comparables, estimate repairs, you learn how loans work in general, you're learning a deal analyzer, you're learning about escrow and title, how wholesaling works, and you're doing some soft skills training. Okay. Okay, yeah. Steven says I've done 25 deals in the past 5 years. Awesome job, dude. That's pretty cool. You want to scale a little bit higher. Okay, so Steven, phase 1 is not your problem. For Steven, you're like, I don't even need phase 1. It's ridiculous. You've run comps, you've estimated repairs, you've done the numbers. Phase 1 isn't even your game, not even remotely. Okay, but how many of you out there right now can actually run comps such that you are absolutely rock solid confident that you can run comps properly? How many of you are really, really good at that? Not me. Okay. So I'm getting some mixed things out there, right? Some are saying, yes, I need practice. Some are saying you're good. Okay. Reality is some of you are out in phase 3 trying to do deals, but you haven't even mastered this one. Now, why are you there? You're very bright. You're very competent. You're amazing. It's just you were trained to go out here. Yep. Now, Nikki says, I'm a realtor. Just so you know, if you're a realtor or a loan officer, you've got most of phase 1 done just by the nature of your business, right? The thing that sometimes agents and loan officers need are this one right here and this one right here. Okay, so these 2 for agents and loan officers. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's what's important. I sent you as a handout a phase 1. It's not a test. I put a better name on it. It's an evaluation, right? If you go through phase 1 and you do that evaluation and you find out that you're at least a 7 out of 10 on most things, then you can go to phase 2. If you're not a 7 out of 10, do you get to go to phase 2? Should you be out making offers if you're not done at a 7 out of 10? No. So guys, I know this is so silly, but if trainers would just make people learn these, they're not exciting, they're not sexy, but it's like a plumber knowing pipes, an electrician knowing, like electrical wires and breakers. If you don't know this stuff, you are dead in the water. You're toast. You don't know what a good deal is. And here's another question. If you don't know how to analyze deals and do a comparable or any of that, right? Can you process the leads as quickly as I do it? No, you can't process leads. If you can't process leads, how do you feel about calling people? Do you feel good or bad about calling them? You should feel horrible about calling them because your psyche isn't stupid. Your psyche says, why am I going to call them? I have no idea what to do when I call them. I can't process the lead. So your fear isn't because you're afraid. Your fear is because you're not prepared. How about raising money? If you call somebody who has money and you ask for money, but you don't even know how to analyze the deal, are you going to feel confident or afraid? You feel terrified, right? Is it because you're just fearful? No, it's not because you're fearful. Your brain isn't stupid. You're not prepared. Okay. So if I am driving a car, right, and it has no wheels, so I'm afraid to drive it, it's not because I'm afraid, it's because my car doesn't have wheels. Well, so many of you, because of the training, not your fault, you're out here trying to do deals in phase 3 and feeling terrified. Like, well, I'm terrified. It's because you're not prepared. You got to do phase 1. All right, well, let's talk about phase 2. Phase 2 is investor basics. Here's another thing. How many of you have ever heard about a courthouse from some of the companies you work with? Anybody ever heard of a courthouse? Not many have. If you've been a place where I teach, you'll hear of a courthouse because I put them in there. Why are courthouses important to success as a real estate investor? Yeah, let's just never accept me. Why is it important? Yeah, they have records there, lots of information. Guys, going to courthouses is huge. Why don't you ever hear from them? The reason is because you can get free leads and information from courthouses. The companies don't like to show you where you can get it for free because they have websites. And the websites have these property cards and they have all this stuff and they're running comps for you and they'll bring up this information and they'll sell you pre-foreclosure leads and probate leads. And if you're signed up for that, they're charging you $100 to $300 a month. So why do they want to teach you about a free source of information when they can pick up $100 a month times, 3,000 or 4,000 people? They don't want you. It's not that they don't want you to know. It's just not worth it, their money to teach you that when they can sell you the software, give you a few free months, get you to pay for 4 or 5 months. That's why. Well, guess what? We solve that problem. Okay. We go to courthouses. We talk about how liens actually work. How does a document work where you record it? How do you actually borrow money? Do you just go say, hey, give me money? Or is there documents and paperwork, right? Can you actually go and make a presentation? What about pre-foreclosures? How do they actually work and function? Where do we get probates? What are they? How do they work? What about a tax lien, right? Those kinds of things. Okay. Love it. Lynn says probates, foreclosure leads, docs, show a story about what's going on. Yeah. Look at all this stuff. How many times are we told to go and start finding these deals when you have no idea how any of these things work? Should you be out there trying to find a pre-foreclosure if you don't even know the pre-foreclosure process? No, that's silly. Makes no sense, right? Right? You're naturally going to feel terrified because your brain knows you're not prepared. It's like, let's say there's a house and there's a dark room and you've never been in this house and somebody says to you, hey Tina, hey Tao, hey Terry, I want you to run through that house, right, Barbara? Just run through it as fast as you can. Okay. Well, if you're running through that house because you don't know what's in there, is your brain going to be excited about that? No, it's going to be terrifying. Now, if your brain knows that the room is empty because it's been in there and explored it, you can run through the room, no problem. Oh yeah, I'll just do that because you run. Well, when you don't have the information you need, guess what? You're terrified to do phase 3. This right here absolutely terrifies you. Take care, Cairo. Okay. So this terrifies you. So phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. This is the beast. Just please know this right here is the hardest phase of them all. This is easy, just takes time. This is easy, it just takes time. When you get here, this is the beast. Okay. This is the challenge. If you're really going to do deals, this is where you're doing sales training, role playing, analysis, you're solving problems. This is 100% soft skills. How many people train you that soft skills are so important to your success? Nobody does, because that's hard. That's difficult. But I need you guys to know, every one of you, if you want to succeed as a real estate investor, you've got to get incredibly good at soft skills. Now, the challenge here, please hear this. The challenge is this is easy to do, and this is easy to do. You can succeed at those just to show up in phase 3 to find out, I don't want any of this. That's the challenge. You've got to master these to really get the confidence to do this and to succeed here. But you might master these and get here and find out you don't like it. So let me ask a quick question. If you know the information in these two phases, is there any way you can use it if you're not a real estate investor? Let's just say you're an average everyday person. Is there any use for this information outside of being an investor? There's a lot of it. Now, phase two, not as much. Phase one, everybody, just knowing phase one will literally save you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your life. Just being able to negotiate loans, knowing how to run comps, knowing how to deal with real estate agents, knowing how title works. Literally, you spend a lot of money on closing costs and realtor fees and stuff that if you understand this, you can make a lot of money just knowing it. This stuff's a little bit tougher, but you can buy tax liens. That can be good. Maybe your family passed away and you understand probates. That's good. You have a family member that gets in trouble with pre-foreclosure. You can help them out. So there are some things. Maybe you sell your house to creative financing. This one here, tons of ways to make money. This one here, not as much. Okay. But you need to understand the risk. This is the harder part. This is the more challenging part. You've got to recognize that risk that's there. Okay. All right. So phase one takes hard work, it's very manageable, requires practice, goes faster with feedback, takes a solid 3 months if you're part-time. Okay. It's going to take you at least 3 months to get through phase one. So you can see how the idea of marketing right now, when you first join, is ridiculous. You're not even through phase one. Now, if you're full-time, it's still going to take you a month to get through phase one. You're going to have to practice a lot to get through it. Okay. If you're an agent or a loan officer, that was, who's my agent? Just a second ago. Was it Tina? Are you my agent, Tina? One of you is my agent, okay? So if you're an agent, it's very simple, okay? But, oh, it was Nikki. Thank you. So Nikki's the agent. Thank you. So for Nikki, this would be easy. Nikki, you could probably get through that really, really quickly, okay? So you have a phase one evaluation. You guys, I sent it to you. You can take it. You'll self-evaluate. It's not like a test I'll be evaluating, but you can decide, am I good with phase one or not? Well, guys, with or without me as an educator, you now have a map, right? You now have, I should have sent you that handout. If I didn't, I need to get that to you so you have that one, okay? But you'll have that say, all right, this is my checklist. This is how I'm going to self-teach, right? Okay. Let's see. So there's my phases again. Okay. Phase two. Again, it's very exciting. Phase two is always fun. Like when you're learning about courthouses and you're learning how to find probate leads and pre-foreclosure leads, when you're learning how to do all that kind of stuff, incredibly exciting. Okay. It's very fun. It's just like, oh, wow. It's just really cool when I don't know how to explain it. You're seeing deals, you're seeing behind the scenes kind of stuff. Like, for example, I can go to a courthouse and find all the lenders in my area because I know how to use the courthouse. How many of you would love to learn how to find lenders at your courthouse? If there's somebody flipping properties in my area, I can find every lender they've ever used just because I know how to use the courthouse. Literally. I just look up their name. It goes to the courthouse, shows me all the properties they've earned or owned. I look at the property, it tells me who the lender is. It's that simple, right? So again, it takes hard work, but it's very manageable. It requires practice, goes faster if you have feedback, right? Like if you're trying to learn on your own, it's hard because like Chris is saying, Ammon, I have numbers, but I got to make sure the numbers are right, okay? But again, it takes a solid 3 months if you're part-time, okay? You also have a phase two evaluation that'll help you kind of see where you're at and see what you need to learn in phase two. And in phase two, what I'm trying to show you guys, it's hard work, but it's doable. Now, how many months are we into this? How many months are we into this without marketing or doing deals or raising money? We're 6 months in. You see, that's the point. How do I sell 6 months of hard work, right? Where we're talking about dry stuff like contracts and dry things like liens and courthouses. Doesn't sound sexy, does it? But if you want to become wealthy, right? If you want to have the nutrients, that's what broccoli's about. It's getting where you need to go. You've got to go through that, okay? Yeah, Don's like, no wonder it feels like I'm still learning, okay? So now we move into phase three. Phase three is an absolute beast. Okay. Every bit of it is soft skills. Every bit of it is phone calls. Every bit of it is analysis, right? You know, in my phase three, you guys want to hear one of the ways I'm going to teach people how to do analysis? I'm going to make people do Sudoku. Okay. Because guess what? When I literally get on Zillow, I saw Lynn's like, Ammon's nuts, right? But literally, when I get on Zillow, it's just like playing Sudoku. I start looking, I'm like, this neighborhood is selling for that amount, that's selling for this amount. Those condos by the water are there. I wonder why. Like you're just gathering data and you're putting information together and you're analyzing this stuff, right? It's all soft skills, okay? So for some of us, it comes naturally. Some of us are very skilled with soft skills. And in 3 weeks, we're doing deals. Other people, it could take you a year or longer to start getting deals. It's impossible to predict. Okay. Yeah. Don says investigative skills. Okay. The other thing here is in phase 3, we now have a real chance for serious loss. Okay. Phases 1 and 2 were just learning. It was fun. It was exciting. It was theoretical. Phase 4, we're actually buying stuff. We're borrowing money. Guys, can you lose substantial sums of money in this business? Absolutely, you can. Okay. Phase 3 is a beast. Now, what I hope is happening in your mind, I hope you're saying, okay, what's happening is Amon's putting on a structure to my learning and a timeline. And so if I really want to succeed, I'm getting what I need to do now. What that means is you're now saying, all right, do I want to do it? Right? Do I want to do it or not? Right? Do I want to go through phase 1 and phase 2 just to show up at phase 3? Like Chris says, there's a pucker factor. Yes, there is. Guys, I've been investing for 20 years. Guess how I feel pretty much every time I make an offer? Use a few words. How do you think I feel 20 years into this? Yeah, nauseated is the perfect word, Mark. It's exactly what I think. I feel like I want to throw up. I don't actually puke. Okay. Now, once it's signed and the contract signed, it's funny. I feel terrified. Then when they sign it, I tend to feel excited. And then the project gets going. And then in the middle of the rehab, I hate it. I hate the rehab part. I love finding things. Okay. But I literally get sick to my stomach. Okay. That's called risk. And we talk about in phase 3, we talk about things like how you deal with risk, how you deal with analysis, that kind of stuff. Right. And I wonder if I put risk in there, but we talk about risk. Well, I know how to tell my emotions to be quiet. I know when my stomach is saying, Ammon, you're going to die. Don't buy that. My brain says, stomach, I love you, but be quiet. And we do the deal anyway, right? Because my brain is high, my emotions are low, I'm able to take action. I literally train a lot of people who will come to me and say, Ammon, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do, right? I find out they do know what to do. They're just scared to do it. It's called risk. It's like when you play a basketball game or you go to a piano recital. It doesn't matter how well you've practiced or how good a team you are, there's always a sense of nervousness. It's always there. Okay. Some of us can't handle it, just so you know. Yeah, Donna says I put a letter of intent and I felt sick. Yeah, it's scary because your body's saying what's going to happen there. All right. I'm not trying to scare you out of the industry. I'm just trying to help you understand what's there. Okay. So by properly mastering phases 1 and 2, you are far, far more likely to succeed in phase 3. Okay. All right. So what I want you guys to look at, though, is because so many coaching companies try to get you here first, marketing and finding deals first. That's why they have such failure rates. They want you to get there because it's sexy, it's fun, it's exciting. But by not making and forcing you, get through these, they're creating a greater failure cycle than needs to be. Right. All right. So what's the process? The genius here is, well, it's focus, guys. It's realistic. It's learning in the right order. It's honest about what it takes to succeed, and it actually works. Now, I'll be really honest. Once you get to phase 3, you can't ever predict success. There's still going to be failure. But if this process can take it from a 5% success rate or 10% success rate to 60, is that substantial? It is. Okay. That's what I want you to take away from this. Okay. I want you to make sure you take those handouts. I want you to self-evaluate, and I want you to use that for you to grow. Okay. So again, for most people, the entities and websites can come later. Okay. Scaling can come later. This process definitely solves problems and it dramatically increases success. Okay. So there it is. That's the process. That's how you're going to create a map going forward. Okay. Any questions on this? Any thoughts? We'll wrap up with one more thought and then we'll let you guys go for today. And we'll be right at that 4 hours. Chris says, I love it. Good. Awesome. Mark just says too many questions. Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, you guys know if you go to Broccoli Real Estate, let's see. Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're enjoying this, right? And that's what I wanted to share with you. That's what Broccoli is about. Now, really quickly, you guys now, as you go forward, you can self-study or you can do assisted learning. Okay. So if you self-study, obviously, right, you can get a law degree without going to law school. That's actually possible. You do not have to go to law school to get a law degree, right? Or I guess to get a law, to become a lawyer. I should probably write that differently, right? You literally can study and pass tests without actually going to law school. You can learn to code without going to college, right? You can learn to invest without paying for the education. You can do that. It's very true and it happens. It's kind of what I did. I paid money, but the education was so bad, I ended up kind of learning on my own. So when you self-study, you can truly solo self-study, or you can use guided self-study. That's kind of what today is, right? If you take the handouts and the not the quizzes, right? You're kind of going on your own. You're going to self-study it, but I guided it. I kind of gave you some structure. All right. So if you want a little bit more kind of on my own, right? I want to do it by myself, but I do want a little bit of guided self-study. Broccoli has phase 1, what we call turtles. Okay. I have a phase 2 turtle as well. And that's just where for 3 months, for an hour, we go over the topics in the phases. It's you show up, teach for an hour, you're done, you go and apply yourself. Okay. Oh yeah, Chris says I went to 2-year tech school for software development, and I'm on par with people that have 4 years. Love it. Okay, so I have a product where it's just kind of on your own. Now, that's phase 1. It's just we meet and we go over literally. It's actually 13 weeks, but we go over this topic, this topic, this topic, and then the soft skills. We have a few more topics, but that's just the phase 1 turtle. We do a phase 2 turtle, right? And again, we just go through each of these topics, an hour, hour and a half every week, and we go through all of those. I do not have a turtle for phase 3. I just don't think there's any way to do a turtle training for phase 3. I guess I could try it, but I haven't done that. Okay. Yes, Payam, I'll talk about that here in just a second. So that's so the turtles. Now, the assisted learning is okay. I want to go a lot faster. I want a lot more help. So you move faster, you're avoiding more mistakes, you're belonging to a community, you get to ask questions, and you're like, okay, if I get assisted learning, it should pay for itself. That should be a requirement. Okay. So if somebody gets involved with Broccoli on a higher level, which I call the assisted learning, okay, before you join me, I will make you watch a disclaimer video where I'm going to tell you all the evil, horrible things, Irene and Thad, that can happen as you do real estate. I will talk about how risk affects things, how you can lose money, right? I've just decided that's important. I also want you guys to understand what I said a minute ago. I know I can get every one of you here to succeed on phases 1 and 2. I know I can. I just know I can. Phase 3, that's a whole different ballgame, and I want you to understand that risk. I don't want you to start in phase 1 and 2 and then be disappointed at phase 3. Okay. Again, when we do the learning, what we're going to do is we take one topic at a time. So we take comparables. That's all you study. You're not studying estimating repairs and deal analyzers and escrow and title all at the same time. We take one topic, which is comps. We do it for a week, and just like going to a college class, you watch videos. There are, in fact, we've already, you watch multiple hours of videos, but it's not the videos that really drive it home. It's the action you take. So you watch the training, you do the exercises, you can go ahead and email me with questions throughout the week. You get feedback on your exercises. And then at the end of that week, we don't get together for me to teach. It's not a teaching thing. It's a doing thing. So on the first week, when we do comps in phase 1, you literally show up and we run comps for 2 hours straight. Okay. Yeah, Donna says you only allow so many folks at a time. Guys, in each class, I only have 10 people. I'm just starting, so I haven't overfilled any classes, but if I succeed, as we get bigger, I'll keep classes to 10 people. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Lynn. Lynn's been in a turtle class. Okay. So again, the applied learning is so much more intensive. It's literally like a college course. So videos, practice, 2 hours. The turtle, you just get taught for an hour, you go out on your own. The assisted, you learn for hours, do exercises, and come to a class type style. Okay. This is, and thank you, Esther actually shared this. Esther is with me in one of my intensives. So I asked her for some feedback on that, and this is exactly. She was just so gracious because this is exactly the point. It's to make sure people aren't lost. It's to make sure people are focused. It's to make sure things are step by step. Okay. And I'm kind of goofy, but hopefully it keeps it light enough for things to keep moving, right? That you keep learning because it keeps it lighthearted. All right. Here's another. Halid is also in one of my intensive products. Okay. So again, I have a couple testimonials. You can find them on my website. Again, we're just getting started here, but so phase 1 and 2 intensives. There we go. I've got an intensive for phase 1, an intensive for phase 2, and I will be doing my first intensive for phase 3. Okay, I'll be doing my first intensive for phase 3 starting mid-April. We're gonna give myself a little bit of time to get that one up and rolling. And in phase 3, just so you know, we'll be doing things like, phase 3 is all phone calls, just so you guys know. This stuff is learning stuff. This here is you're coming, making a lot of phone calls. You'll be doing journaling. You'll get to watch me do my deals. And that's another thing. Like I could get people down here to see some of my deals and watch it. Problem is if I could get a ton of people to pay me money to do it, but if you watch me do a deal and you're at phase 1, it's not going to make any sense. It's not going to help you. But here, if you're watching me do my deals, it's going to make perfect sense. You'll have all this checked out. You'll be able to do this kind of a thing. Okay. So phase 3 is all soft skills. We're talking about risk training, analysis training, negotiation training. We'll be role playing like crazy. Over here, we do a little bit of role playing. There's of course some because 2 hours of application every week, but a lot of it is understanding concepts, filling out deal analyzers, running comparables. Okay. You're welcome, Stephen. God bless you, my man. Okay, so you just got to decide self-study or, you want to do it, assisted. So if you want to work alone, what's your time, your budget allocations, right? Take the evaluation, see where you're at. And of course, you're dedicated to your choice. This is when my phases will be starting. Okay, so I'm going to be starting a phase 1 turtle on March 31st that week. Phase 1 intensive the week of March 31st. Phase 2 turtle 31st. Phase 2 intensive. Now, please know right now, the classes are small enough when people sign up, we get together to create the starting date. Okay. So there isn't an exact day or time. Once we have the class established and set up, registration stops because it requires that you start and go from there. Okay. So once it starts, we get everybody together and we set a time that's going to work for everybody. And then off we go. If you want the assisted living, those are my prices for those different levels of intensive. Okay. If you want to sign up for any of them, just go to broccoliRE.com and go to the store. You can sign up there, okay? And again, the thing that should happen, whether you work with me or not in any of these particular classes, you should be able to take the evaluations. And I don't think I sent you the slide. The slide that shows the three phases. If I did not, I will send it to everybody. But take the evaluations in that 3-step slide. You have a perfect plan for succeeding at this business, knowing you've got a lot of work ahead of you. Now, once you have that first year done and you're doing deals consistently, then you can focus on scaling up. Okay, Donna. No, it's per intensive. So, for example, and yes, Donna, I don't think I'll ever change my structure of my products, but after we've done a phase 1 turtle, in a few months we'll do another one. Phase 3 is probably only going to happen twice a year. I'll probably have phase 2s 3 times a year. Turtles are going to happen regularly. But in any case, it's per 3 months. So Irene, for example, if you wanted to join my phase 1 turtle, that's for the 3 months. Each one of these courses is 3 months long, and I did a bad job of explaining that. Each of them is 3 months long. We meet via Zoom, and we work that way. Okay, so each one of these courses is 3 months. The phase 3 is 3 to 6 months is where it's going to be. Okay, evaluations are there. Good. Lori, awesome. So I will have others. So again, if you are interested in those, go to broccoliRE.com. You can join me for those. If you need individual coaching calls as well, if you go to broccoliRE.com, you can schedule individual coaching calls with me as well. I do still work with a company called Kingdom 320. I still do coach with them a little bit. I still do their webinars. To be honest, I love it. And so as I've just started getting my own webinars up and coaching, I don't want to leave the other, right? I don't want to leave the other until I had this one rocking and rolling. Chris, awesome. Chris is going to join me in the turtle one. We're going to have a blast. We'll have a really good time. So I'll get with everybody, Chris, let you know where that sits, and off we go. Okay, guys, any questions for me at all? You're welcome, Ben. Lori, I'm still with Kingdom 320. I will be there. I will be there probably for a few more months. I really would like Broccoli to go well and grow, and then I would leave there fully because I just love my coaching. It's a lot of fun. No, Irene, great question. So in phase 1, so every phase has essentially, let me put it this way: the turtles are literally just an hour and a half where we teach. That's it. So it's one class per week on the turtles. The intensives are a little bit different because with the intensives, you have hours of training during the week. So you could say that because there are 4 or 5 or 6 videos, well, two to 6 videos per week, you have 6 lessons during the week, plus you have activities you're supposed to be doing, and then you show up for a 2-hour class. So if you count each video as a class, you've got 5 or 6 or 7 classes throughout the week before you get together to actually, implement what you're learning. So for example, in phase 2, let's say you were learning about courthouses. You would watch several videos on the courthouse. Then you have an exercise that says go to the courthouse. You would go there, and then when we got together for the 2 hours, we would online go investigate courthouses and find probate leads and pre-foreclosure leads. If it was the turtle, we would just teach you about it for an hour that week, and then you'd have to go do it on your own. So, Roxanne, I do have payment plans for people. If you just reach out to me and let me know, hey, can I do a payment plan? We can do that. Yes. Thank you, Lori. I sure appreciate you. Now, guys, the biggest thing too is I'm going to send you a survey. I'd love to know what you think. My goal in this is to provide the service, but not to put manipulation or pressure on there, right? And so that's the goal. Irene, hopefully the evaluations I sent will help you know which class to join. So if you look at the handouts, if you have phase 1, you will see in there, you'll see a phase 1 evaluation, and it has instructions on it. If you go through and evaluate yourself and say, well, I'm a 3 on this, or I'm a 7 on that, or I'm a 6 on that, you evaluate yourself. And let's say you go through a phase 1 and you're like, man, I'm 4, 5s, and 6s on all of this. Well, then you need to go to phase 1. Even if you've already been out there looking at deals, right? Mark and Susan say, I see a lot of broccoli in your future. I hope so. I sure love the name. I like it. But so what you'll do is you'll do that. You'll take that test. Now, the other thing, Irene, is if you need to get on the phone with me, I'm happy to get on the phone with you free of charge and answer your questions and make sure you're in the right phase. And I didn't put it in my slides, but guys, there's always a money back guarantee. If you get into a course, you're like, this is not good for me, or this isn't work, then we'll just give your money back, right? This is an educational company. It's not a higher pressure sales company. So if you feel you need to, if you're like, Ammon, this just doesn't work or whatever, then you can pop out. So Irene, take that evaluation. If that doesn't help you find out where you need to be, go ahead and get a hold of me on my email, or you can email me, or you can find me on Facebook, and I'd be happy to talk it through with you to make sure you get in the right spot. Okay. Let's see. And again, it's just broccoliare.com at the store. All right. That's our summary right there, guys. Any other questions at all? Payam, you're welcome to all of you. Thank you. I love having you here. I've had a blast. Esther, I don't think it's going to be too much for you. No. Esther, I think you're going to be fine, because by the time we start the intensive 2, we're going to be most of the way done with intensive 1. I think what you need to do is just realize, well, I guess 2 things for you, Esther. Number 1, I think you need to decide if you feel like you've mastered the topics, and I think you're doing pretty well. And if you're like, yeah, I'm mastering them with each week, and I feel comfortable with it. Take care, John. Thank you so much for being here. If you're good with that, that's good. And then, yes, I can say you can go to phase 2. The second is, do you have time, right? Do you have time to do both at the same time? If you have time, then I would say you're fine for going to phase 2. Okay. So are you mastering phase 1, and then do you have time? If you don't have time, then, wait till I do it a while later. Or if you're not mastering phase 1 yet, let's make sure we get you there. And by the way, anybody who's done a phase with me in the intensive, you can redo it for free. So it's not like you got to repay to go through it. Like if you do an intensive, you're like, I really need to do that again, just join me on the next one. It's totally free. If I get too many people repeating, we may have to look at that. But for now, anybody who's paid for phase 1, it's like you bought a book, you got the information, you can join me again. Okay. Perfect. Nikki, thank you so much. So Irene, we don't know what time. Mark and Susie, you're so welcome. When people have signed up, Irene, I would imagine we're going to have 4 to 10 people per class. So once everybody's signed up, I will email everybody the week of the 31st and say, hey, okay, guys, what time and day do you want to do it? And then as a group, we'll decide, because my groups are, well, they'll always stay. I imagine they'll say 10 or less. The biggest I can ever imagine is 15, but they'll be small enough that if you decide to sign up, we'll just get everybody together and decide at that point. Esther, you're awesome. And Esther, what I designed, the ones I sent out for this meeting are a lot more robust. So it's kind of everything in one spot. Eric and Tracy, you're so welcome. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your comments. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so if you guys, if you, here's how it works in terms of coaching calls. If it's kind of like you're just curious about which package works for you, I'd be happy to just get on with you and have a phone call. So just find me on Facebook. If it's like a coaching call on a deal, or you just want to, average coaching call where you like want to get on and talk about your comps or go over a deal, you can go to broccolire.com and actually go into the store. It's not products, and you can schedule a coaching call there. So Donna, for you and Jay, probably just get a hold of me on Facebook there. Chris, I look forward to having you there. The turtles are a lot of fun. They're great. So we're having a good time. In fact, I just finished one. We're about to finish. I only have another turtle going. It's about to finish. It'll be fun to get one started again. So, okay. That's it. Guys, God bless you. Thank you again for being here. Sure appreciate you, and we'll see you around, and good luck out there as you implement this plan. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.